Good morning, friends, and welcome to a live stream. We're covering the Lindsay Clancy trial, day 15. This is a horrific case, and it is really our first day back from vacation. We've been following it from from the background. This is a tragic case of three children's lives taken by their mother due to a postpartum stress psychosis. The Commonwealth claims that she premeditated these murders and she knew what she was doing. The defense is stating that she admits to these murders, but was under severe, heavy medication and psychosis. Let's take a listen to day 14, and we're going to cover day 15. The defense has the case, and they're presenting their case as we speak. But let's go over day 14 because I think it's important. Her mom was put on the stand, and I thought the Commonwealth went after her mom. This family has suffered due to this tragic incident that occurred on January 24th of 2023. These three children lost, and there's many fingers that are being pointed in all different directions, at the husband, at the wife, at the mom, at the family, at everybody's getting pointed out. But let's take a listen to day 14 as we proceed with day 15.
14 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The Connecticut native is accused of murdering her three young children in their Duxbury, Massachusetts home in January of 2023. Today, the prosecution rested and the defense began presenting its case. Lindsay Clancy's own mother and sister took the stand. Joining us now live is Ryan McGuigan, defense attorney and former prosecutor, to break down what happened today.
I also want to say, I'm going to put myself on the screen. I want to say that this former prosecutor who breaks down this case on this news station from Connecticut, the family is from Connecticut, her side of the family. I think he breaks it down pretty well because a lot of people are confused about the direction that this case is going. And I think he really breaks down day 14 real well and gives you a good look at what the prosecution, what the Commonwealth is trying to do here and try to prove, because the burden's on them. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay Clancy knew and planned, and it was premeditated, the murders of her three children, as young as 8 months old. And Callan, poor Callan, Dawson, 3 years old, and Cora, 5 at the time. Look, my wife, I just want to say this. My wife suffered from postpartum depression after the birth of both of our children. Our son is 35, our oldest, and our youngest is 30. And that was not an easy time for anybody. But more importantly, for her, it was really bad. So I went through that with my wife while I was a New York City police officer, active, working 12 to 15-hour days. And I had to take time off. I took time off from work. I didn't have to. I did it because I needed to be with her. I needed to help her. My mom, my mother-in-law, my whole family, everybody pitched in. But no two cases are the same. But I can understand how severe postpartum stress and depression can be on a woman, and not only the woman who's going through it, but the family, because nobody knows the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And this is, again, not me making excuses, because taking the lives of your own flesh and blood is something that is by far the most horrific thing you could even imagine. And trust me when I say this, I've been around families in my job with the New York City Police Department who've done similar things to this. And I've been on the scenes of these things, and it's not easy. As you could see from the testimony from the police officer who was first on the scene, he was visibly broken and shaken 3 years later. I mean, this incident happened in 2023, and now we're in 2026. So let's take a listen to this former prosecutor break down day 14, and I think it will make it clear, and then we'll go to the live trial.
In court, Ryan, it's great to see you. Joining us now live is Ryan McGuigan, defense attorney and former prosecutor, to break down what happened today in court. Ryan, it's great to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
And I think what's important to note is the prosecution strategy in this and also the defense strategy. The prosecution argues this was premeditated murder, that Lindsay Clancy rationally planned this out. The defense argues Clancy lacks criminal responsibility because she was experiencing postpartum psychosis at the time of the killings. Okay, so the last witness that was called for the prosecution was a forensic expert who looked at the phone data. Why is this digital evidence so important, Ryan?
Well, there seems to be a tension between postpartum psychosis and whether or not that can coexist with planning and premeditation. And you'll find through the experts that they'll most likely state that no, it doesn't, and that people who are psychotic don't plan what they're doing and don't try to hide what they're doing because they don't understand that what they're doing is wrong. So with the phone data, what it was demonstrating is that she had made a plan about where her husband was going to be that morning, how long he was going to be away. She mapped out his route to figure out how many minutes it would take him to return. And then most importantly is she took the children downstairs where they couldn't be heard by the neighbors. Now, all of that would indicate two things. A, that she was aware of what she was doing, and B, she was aware that what she was doing was wrong, because you wouldn't try to hide it from anybody if you thought, like within a psychotic state, that the devil was after you. If you stab the devil, nobody will think that you've done something wrong. You've just done a good thing, actually. So that was the importance of that testimony.
We have about a minute left here, Ryan. It was now the defense's turn. What is the defense doing by calling on family members like Clancy's mother and sister, calling them to the stand today?
They would like to humanize her. They would like to show that she's not a monster, and that she was at some time a wonderful person, and she's not the kind of person who in her right mind would do this. And that's what they want to show, is that at some point she was doing great, and then she had this long history of mental health problems after having her children, and therefore the person that murdered her children is not the person that they know.
And what stands out to you in this case? And
I'm asking you folks in the chat, do you feel that, and I'll put it up on the screen here, do you feel that Lindsay Clancy premeditated these murders, or was she criminally not responsible due to her psychosis? Again, this former prosecutor laid out what the Commonwealth is trying to lay out. The burden of proof is on them. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay Clancy did in fact know what she was doing and was not suffering in a psychosis state where she had no idea what she was doing, due to the facts that he just laid out there, that she took the children down into the basement, used those exercise bands to murder them. She admits to doing this, but she also says that she was not of sound mind. And again, the defense has the case, and we heard yesterday, day 14, from the defense. We heard from her sister here. We heard from her mother. But I like to know what everybody's thinking, because I've yet to draw a full conclusion on this case, because I'm compiling everything and we haven't heard everything in its totality. And until the final arguments are made, I'm undecided at this time. So a lot of people are saying she was 100% psychosis, and I respect all sides of the spectrum here. I respect all sides of the the coins. Some people are going to feel yes, she knew what she was doing. Some people are going to say no. There's many people who point the finger at her husband, which I don't think at this stage of the game is fair, because he's not been criminally charged. So there's a lot of people on the different social medias blaming the husband and saying that he did it and he's using her as a scapegoat. I think that's a far stretch. But let's go back and listen to a little bit of what he said, and then we'll go straight to the trial. Let me know in the chat when the trial is live. I got it up on a couple of screens and I'm monitoring it. We'll go right to it. Good to see you, Allie Brooks, and everybody here. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it.
The importance of that testimony.
We have about a minute left here, Ryan. It was now the defense's turn. What is the defense doing by calling on family members like Clancy's mother and sister, calling them to the stand today?
They would like to humanize her. They would like to show that she's not a monster, and that she was at some time a wonderful person, and she's not the kind of person who in her right mind would do this. And that's what they want to show, is that at some point she was doing great, and then she had this long history of mental health problems after having her children, and therefore the person that murdered her children is not the person that they know.
And what stands out to you in this case? And I'm sure there's many things, but what stands out to you?
What stands out for me is what we haven't heard yet, and that is the sort of the battle of the experts. The state hasn't put on their expert to analyze the entire case. They have some forensic experts, but what will happen is the defense is going to put on an expert that is going to say that she was psychotic, and then you will hear from the state's expert that will go through all of these pieces of evidence that demonstrate that she was not. So that's what stands out to me, is what we haven't heard yet after 14 days of testimony.
Miss Connie, I agree. The defense is doing a fabulous job. And from my opinion, from my perspective, it seemed like the defense was running circles around the prosecution, the Commonwealth. Let me know what you think in the chat. And I know a lot of people have weighed in on this. I see Dr. G, he's been doing things on this. But really, at the end of the day, folks, and I just say this with the most respect and respect for all the people who give commentary on this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anybody says. What matters is what the jury absorbs and how it's presented to them, and that they're going to be the final word on it, not what anybody else has to say and any other analyses. What happens in the courtroom and what the jury comes down with when that final verdict is read is what counts here. And again, we're going to watch it together. We're going to listen, and we're going to go from there.
All right, Ryan McGuigan, defense attorney and former prosecutor, thank you so much for your...
So drugs are awful. The amount of drugs that she was prescribed by different various healthcare providers was outrageous. It was egregious. It was like nothing I've ever seen. And trust me, mental health calls, emotionally disturbed people were the primary call. It was one of the highest calls that we dealt with while working patrol in Brooklyn, where I worked, in East New York and Brownsville. So I'm just going to switch to some of the various coverage. Doesn't look like, let's see. Looks like we still have the court seal up. I'm looking at the AP wire here, and their chat is going wild. Mrs. JMD, good to see you. Thank you for being a channel member. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are throwing blame on the doctors. Look, I have some thoughts as it pertains to this, and our best defense when it comes to mental health of a family member, like say a husband, a wife, spouse, significant other, family member, your best defense for, advocating for the person who's going through this is your family. Doctors and healthcare providers, they're very quick to write prescriptions because it's a numbers game with them, and some of them get paid on the amount of prescriptions they write. There's that argument, right? There's some doctors or some psychiatrists, are quick to say and diagnose somebody while spending 10 or 15 minutes with them. I don't think that's fair. I think you need to spend a lot more time with someone to really get a full diagnosis. But to sit and write out prescriptions, and if the person is, look, I was taking gabapentin for almost a whole year. On the prescription bottle, the first thing on the side effects, it says suicidal thoughts. I have the pill bottle upstairs. I have the whole big literature that comes with it. Taking medicines, and especially psychotropic medications, and the ones that she was prescribed, I have the list here. It's unbelievable that she was actually able to function. You know, when my wife, I indicated to you guys early on that my wife, when our first son was born and 35 years ago, she went through postpartum depression and stress, and it hit her really bad. That was 35 years ago. What was the first thing that the doctors prescribed to my wife? What do you think the first thing that they prescribed to my wife? Zoloft, a high dosage of it. Needless to say, that didn't go well. And the frustration level just got higher, and her deep, dark thoughts got worse. And she was vocal about it with me. I didn't leave my wife alone for not 1 minute. And I'm not, making or bringing this example up to point fingers or say, hey, this is how this should have gone in this case. But that was my decision. That was my choice. And if I had to go out, or if I had to go to work, or if I had to go shopping, my mother-in-law was here, my sister was here, my brother was here, my neighbor was here, whoever I could have with her, she was never alone. And that was very stressful and very difficult to do, but I did that. And that's going back 35 years. I'm giving you an example of my situation. No two situations are the same. Some people don't have or not afforded people to cover for them and sit with a person who's going through this. And you have to leave them alone at certain times. But when there is things and clear indicators that are given to you, like I have thoughts of hurting our children, once somebody says that, all bets are off. And that's a fact, So a lot of people in the chat, Steph Cousins, yeah. Everybody has an opinion here, and here's one on the other side. She's a monster, no excuse. While we're waiting here, let me just go through, and I don't want to bore you guys with this, but here's a long timeline. Mental health decline in 2022 for Lindsay Clancy. In July of 2022, Lindsay gives birth to her third child, Kaylin. Her older children are Cora and Dawson. In the fall of 2022, according to testimony now being presented at the trial, which has already been presented, Lindsay's family in fall of 2022 noticed a significant change, including anxiety, insomnia, fear of being alone, and worsening depression. Again, insomnia is one of the key things here. When you do not sleep, when you're not sleeping, it makes everything more difficult, no matter what. If you're not even having anxiety or depression and you don't get sleep, you can't think clearly. In October of 2022, she communicates increasing distress and suicidal thoughts. Her family says she discloses intrusive thoughts about harming her children. This is in October and December of 2022, almost over a whole year before this tragic incident happened. In December of 2022, she receives treatment, actually months, what am I saying, a year, 2 months, almost 2 months before this tragic incident. It happened in 2023. In December, she receives treatment through the Women's and Infants Hospital Center for Women's Behavior and Health. Multiple psychiatrists, psychiatric medication becomes an important part of this trial. In January 2023, this is the kicker. She was hospitalized. Lindsay voluntarily enters the McLean Hospital, and then on January 6th, just 5 days later, she gets discharged. In the following weeks, Patrick Clancy, that's her former husband, and Lindsay continue to communicate with medical providers about her condition and medications. The defense now argues her treatment was poorly coordinated, and that's an understatement, and that the medication contributed to her severe psychiatric deterioration. And then the Commonwealth disputes that. January 2022, Lindsay and Patrick attend dinner at a family friend Kyle Carney's home. Carney later describes Lindsay as appearing relatively normal that evening. January 23rd, she writes about postpartum anxiety in a note on her phone. And then January 24th, 2023, the deaths during the day. She takes Cora to the doctor like it was a normal day. She later plays outside in the snow with the children and sends photos to her family. And then that evening, her husband leaves to the Duxbury home and picks up medication and takeout food. Prosecution, which is the Commonwealth, contend that Lindsay deliberately created an opportunity to be alone with the children, and the defense disputes this and demonstrates criminal premeditation. While her husband is gone, Cora 5, Dawson 3, and Kaylin 8 months old, God, are strangled with her exercise bands. They showed that at the trial. Those are those resistance bands attached, I believe, to the back of the door. Lindsay then injures herself and jumps out of a second floor story window. Her husband returns less than an hour later after leaving and discovers his wife outside and finding the children in a basement. Horrific, horrific, horrific. Cora and Dawson were taken to the hospital and dies that night, and Kaylin is transported to the hospital, the Children's Hospital. January 25th to the 28th of 2023. Authorities obtained an arrest warrant for Lindsay on January 25th of 2023, and January 27th, Kaylin is pronounced dead at Boston Children's Hospital. Lindsay's hospitalized and intubated, begins communicating using a whiteboard. This just goes through the full timeline. And then here we are with the trial. I'm just going to go live and refresh it. Yeah, Polka Dot Suzanne, I have an understanding of what she was going through, but none of us, including everybody who's watching this, knows fully what happened and what was going on. We have, testimony from her family. We have testimony from his family, him, the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, whoever testified, her mom, her sister. We know that she was a delivery room nurse, and she was very good at her job, very empathetic. She might have even been an empath by all means, because she would cry in the delivery room when the deliveries were done. She was very good at her job. She was a nurse, for crying out loud. Nurses know about medications as well. It's part of your training when you go to nursing school. You learn about all the different interactions with medications and so forth. But she seemed like a good person. And something really went wrong. And I believe what went wrong is that she was suffering from postpartum stress disorder, similar to what my wife and similar to what many women go through. And the medications that she was prescribed made it worse. Every medication that you take almost nowadays has a disclaimer on it. And that disclaimer, first line, most of the time, may cause suicidal thoughts. It scares the shit out of you when you read these medicine bottles. So, of course, none of us know. The Commonwealth has the burden of proof. Thank you, All Zombies Matter. The prosecution has the burden to prove she was not in psychosis. So there is no right or wrong here, because none of us were physically involved. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors in anybody's home. We're hearing about what people are being brought forward to testify to in court. So we're hearing both sides of the fence. The Commonwealth is bringing this case forward and is saying that she premeditated and murdered all 3 of her kids that evening on January 24th, 2023 at approximately 5:37 p.m. She took her kids down to the basement so nobody could hear it and premeditated, with malice and forethought, took those kids to the basement and killed them. This is what the Commonwealth is saying. The defense is saying, no, she did not know what she was doing. because of her medication that was prescribed by numerous doctors. There's one doctor, Dr. Tufts, that everybody keeps mentioning that prescribed multiple different medications and was not really an experienced psychiatrist. So we all have opinions and I respect them all. And I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm saying this is what we're being presented here. And this is going to come to an end at the conclusion when the jury gets the case. And when the jury deliberates and comes back with their verdict, that's the only thing that matters. It looks like we're getting some movement in the court. Let me put the audio up and go live to it. That gosh darn Massachusetts seal. How many people get that Karen Reed vibe when we hear about a Massachusetts courtroom? I always think about the Karen Reed trial whenever there's a court case in Massachusetts. So let me know what you think. I proposed a message in the chat. I want to poll everybody that's here. I know there's so many other people that have been streaming this for 15 days straight. So I know there's a lot of other choices, and I appreciate all of you guys for being here with us. But let me know what you think. Do you think that she knew what she was doing? Was this premeditated, or was she in a psychosis and had no responsibility for the murders of her children, for the deaths of her children? And do you think that she deserves to be behind bars for the rest of her life? Or should she, if she's found not guilty by reason of insanity, go to a mental institution and perhaps be out in society in 10 or so years? Does she deserve to walk the streets and perhaps be around other children after what she did? Would you want her living next to you? Would you want to share a community with her? I'm just curious of your thoughts. I'm not saying how I feel about this at this time, but let me know what you think. I mean, these are valid questions that we would want to know, would ask each other, right? You know, I feel strongly when you take the life of your own flesh and blood, it is just a horrific act. And it's a hard thing for me as a parent, and whether you're a parent or not, to absorb that. And, you know, think about the families, like the surviving mother and sisters and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews and cousins. This is something they'll never, ever get by. You'll never be able to get over this. It is difficult at best. DLL, thank you for your comment. Sundown Farms, I don't believe she should ever be set free. Yeah, she tried to kill herself, right? According to her. All zombies matter. I don't think she wants to live, but she clearly needs help and should be in a hospital for a long time. She would be in a mental institution getting intensive treatment. Yeah, I mean, Renee, oh. All right, here we go.
She is represented by the Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Clancy. All right, before we start, could I see everybody talk about today's schedule?
Okay, a little sidebar action here before they get started. Just a little bit also just about what's been going on with me for the last 2 weeks. Vacation down in Miami to see my son. I've been getting medical treatment. I went down for some wellness treatment as well for my cancer, for my 9/11 cancer. Today at 1 o'clock, I have an injection for my spine. So I'm going to Memorial Sloan Kettering at about 12 noon. I'm going to leave here to go and get an injection epidural for my spine. The pain in my back is just so bad. And then next month I get my PET scan to see what's going on with the lesions on my spine and my lymphoma, if it's spread. You know, I have thyroid cancer as well, and then this pain in my cheek that's unexplained. So I'm going for so many different treatments, so many different medications I'm on. It's just making it tough for me to hit YouTube the way I'd normally hit it. So I apologize for the absence here. It's just that I'm not medically well. I have bad days and good days. I get out and ride the bike for exercise, but the pain that I feel at night is hard to describe. So again, to my loyal friends and subscribers and people who are here with me for years and years, I want to thank you for being compassionate and understanding and staying subscribed and staying channel members and keeping supporting us through, you know, Patreon and buy me cups of coffee and super chats and stuff like that. You guys are the best. I haven't been here a lot, and it's for a good reason. You know me. If I was okay, I'd be live all the time. I'd be covering cases like there's no tomorrow. It's just this cancer's really been fucking with me bad. So, and I don't say it lightly because it really, it's really taken a toll on me. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying, and I'm trying. Let's take a listen in. Sidebar, and more sidebars. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting me. All zombies matter. Amen to that. Fuck cancer. Thank you. I responded to the World Trade Center 25 years ago, this September 11th to be 25 years. And it took 23 years for the cancer to hit me in 2024. So I lost many brothers and sisters to cancer in very, very, very horrible ways. Watching some of my friends sipping on a sponge to get water at the end of their lives, and some of the most healthy guys, members of the football team, wither away to nothing. So it's scary. And the psychological part of this and the anxiety is just through the roof. So I appreciate you guys all sticking it out with me. Nicole, thank you for the super chats and love, hope, and prayers. All I ever ask is for prayers. That's it. Just pray for me. Pray for Ed. He's battling too. Crochet After Dark, cancer survivor here for cancer. Praying for you, Ron. Thank you. Thank you, Crochet After Dark. The crochet community is great to me and all of you guys. Allie, I appreciate you being here and being a channel member. Red Like Wine, thank you. Yeah, I run out of energy quickly. And it's one of the prime reasons why I haven't been live regularly is because my energy levels, when I use the energy, I got to rest afterwards. Like I still do the bike as much as I can. I ride the e-bike. I try to do that as much as I can, weather permitting and strength permitting. This is an awfully long sidebar for them. The defense has the case now. The defense is presenting their case. We heard from her mom, her sister, and many others, and they talked about how good of a mom and how good of a worker. You know, we heard also from Lindsay Clancy's former co-workers. Her mother and sister described a significant deterioration in their daughter and their sister's mental condition before January 24th, including the suicidal thinking, fear of being alone, and thoughts concerning harm to the children. That, to me, is the most compelling part of this, is that, again, like I said, people who are in this position that Lindsay was in, and there's hundreds of thousands of women as we speak right now going through postpartum stress disorder and possibly psychosis from the medications that they take. And the people who are there that can protect them the most are their friends and family, not healthcare providers. I'm sorry to say it. Healthcare providers can be great at times and can be really shitty. It's like I have my problems with my healthcare, right? Thank you. Talk to angels. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. I have problems with my team at Sloan. Sometimes I'm in pain and I message them, or I go onto the portal and I tell them, hey, something's not right. And it takes a whole day and a half for me to hear anything from them. I'll call the emergency hotline and I won't get a call back for a whole day. So I'm just sitting there, forced to have pain and sit in pain and just work through it. So here's the overview. The trial is now today, day 15. The defense case is underway. As I said, the focus has shifted heavily towards Lindsay's psychiatric condition, her behavior in late 2022 and early January 2023, her medications, and whether she was experiencing postpartum psychosis when she killed the children. That's what they're focused on now, the defense. If convicted of first-degree murder, Lindsay Clancy is facing life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. If found not guilty by reason of lack of criminal responsibility, as I alluded to earlier, that would not necessarily mean she simply goes free. Psychiatric commitment, that's admitting to her to a mental hospital, to mental health facility, would be expected. A psychiatric commitment proceeding would be expected if she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. So that's what we have going on here. And thank you, Carol. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you. Yeah, our healthcare system leaves a lot to be desired, Lori. I can attest to that. But again, going back to early in my career, some of the most redundant and repetitive calls were calls for mental health, emotionally disturbed people having episodes. And a lot of the times when we got to the location and we got to the person's home, the family members kept telling us that they're not taking their medicine. They stopped taking it. They felt that they could change the way they take their medicines. The reasoning behind not taking the medicines is because they weren't feeling right and they were feeling like they wanted to either harm themselves or others. And in that case, we had to physically take them to the hospital for mental evaluation without, any warrants or anything like that. We would physically have to place them in handcuffs and bring them, if they fought with us, to a mental health facility. And that call was shocking to me. The amount of the percentage of calls that we were getting was shocking to me because it was just so overwhelming how many emotionally disturbed persons calls we would get on a regular nightly basis. I worked the night shift, and at night is particularly when these episodes become more intense. At nighttime, people would be crawling. People would be crawling the walls, crawling the ceilings, as we would say. All right, here we go. Day 15. Let's see what we got.
We have another matter at 2 o'clock, which is the compliance. I'm going to send it to Judge.
All right.
Just so you know, Lynn, Irish girl, she's in the jail ward at that hospital. Every hospital that has a mental health facility for someone who's under arrest, she's under arrest. She's not free to go home. She is in a hospital, but it's in the jail ward. Just at FYI, I've been to many of them.
Hey, all persons having anything to do before the Honorable William Sullivan, Justice of the Superior Court now sitting in Plymouth, within before the Commonwealth. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now in session. Please be seated.
Thank you, Mrs. J. MD.
Yes, please.
Ron, before the court today, we have a continuation of the jury trial matter of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Ms. Clancy is present. She is represented by Attorney General, and the Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney General Thyroid and Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. You know, I'm going to ask you those questions, then we'll talk a little bit about today's schedule. So first question is, any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial as a juror? Next question, is there any other serious matter or concern bearing on your service as a juror in this case that anybody needs to bring to my attention? Again, thank you for following those instructions. And what I wanted to, we'll talk a little bit about today's schedule. We're at the point in the trial where I think, as you saw a little bit yesterday, there's kind of some stop and starts that go through. And I think we're going to have a similar day today. All right, so I appreciate your patience with us as I deal with counsel about some things that I have to speak to outside of your presence. But as you see the cases moving forward, and those kind of gaps or the stops that you see are part of the reason that keeps the case moving. So I think the schedule today will be similar in some ways to what we had yesterday. All right. And so with that, we're going to now return to the defendant who's presenting her case at this time. Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Call Sue Clancy, please.
Compelling statement, not true, but not across the board. But our healthcare system sucks big time. I agree with you, Liminal.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm just going to ask you to speak into that microphone, keep your voice up if you could. All right. Counsel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And just tell us your name and spell it, please.
Susan Clancy, SUSAN CLANCY.
And what time do you
Situate.
And you're married to Chris Clancy.
Yes,
And both you and Chris are mother and father.
correct.
And you are 5 years old. You live in Tufts.
Yes.
Tell us what your relationship was with Lindsay, how you knew her, and things like that.
Yeah, Lindsay married my son Patrick, and we had a very good relationship.
And did you have occasion to go to their home?
Yes.
In Weymouth? on
Yeah.
occasion?
I did.
And then in Duxbury as well?
Correct.
And obviously, you and your husband were the grandparents of the 3 little kids.
Yes.
And how was your relationship with the babies?
Beautiful.
And tell us how frequently, to your memory, you were able to visit with your son, Lindsay, and of course your grandchildren.
At least a couple times a month, we would see them.
At some point, oh, by the way, what do you do for work?
RN.
I'm sorry, an RN?
An RN.
And what type of, any
I
focus?
worked in the labor and delivery room for about 38 years.
38 years in labor and delivery,
Correct.
helping women that were having babies. And
Correct.
obviously, you kept up with the studies and continuing education and things.
Yes, I did.
To that extent, in your capacity as an RN with 38, well, back then it would have been 35 years of experience, I think.
Yes.
it's fair to say that you, as I said, you would keep up with all of recent developments in postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, all of that.
Somewhat, but I mainly just was in the delivery room itself.
So were you aware of the various physicians that were in the forefront, if you will, of postpartum studies as it relates to medicine?
Yes.
And would one of the people that you were interested in be a person by the name of Dr. Meg Spinelli?
Yes.
Can you tell us who Meg Spinelli is?
I don't really know Meg Spinelli well. We've spoken a couple of times. I believe she specializes in postpartum mental health.
And have you met with her before?
Not in person.
Okay. Did you at some point ask Dr. Spinelli to help out at your hospital, and I guess they call it a rounds lecture?
I asked her to bring on her experience and education in that area and share it with my colleagues.
Did she do that?
She did.
And as time went by, dealing with your job, your family, your son, daughter-in-law, grandchildren, did you notice in 2022, after Callan was born, any change in the personality, if you will, of Lindsay?
Several months after that, I did.
Would that be sometime in the fall?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, being as close as you were with the family, well, let me back up. As a mother-in-law, did you have any observation to observe Lindsay with her kids?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors about how you saw her acting with her children as a mother?
She was very nurturing, very loving. She was a wonderful mother. Wonderful.
Did you ever see her treat her middle son, Dawson, bad because you didn't like him?
No.
Did she love Dawson, in your opinion?
She loved her children, all of them, very, very much.
And during that period of time, let's say October, November of 2022, what did you observe about Lindsay?
She reached out to me in November and told me that she felt unwell.
Did she describe any symptoms for you?
She did.
Tell the jurors what she said.
She felt mostly she had insomnia. She was losing her appetite. She was very anxious and sad.
Did she tell you that she was seeing doctors?
Yes.
And at some point, did you recommend, did she come to you and ask you for help regarding seeing a doctor?
Yes, she asked for my support.
And did you obviously gave it to her?
Yes.
And what did you do to make any recommendations for her?
I reached out to my colleagues who were running a clinic for women that were struggling postpartum.
That be the South Shore?
Yes, correct.
And at some point, as a result of your intervention, was a nurse practitioner, Julie Hall, agreeing to step in and help out.
Yes,
Did Lindsay see Julie?
I believe she did.
And you really pretty much were out of the mix at that point. You basically made the connection, knew that she was gone there, right?
Correct.
Did you find that Lindsay was interested at all times in trying to get better and see doctors?
Very much so.
Did you find at all, or do you have an opinion with your observations of Lindsay as to whether or not she was offered help and would just spurn it and not see doctors and not have
She was
treatment?
begging for help.
And during that period of time, you were there for her by text and by telephone and in person.
Correct.
Now, during that time that you were, let's say November and into December, the holiday season, do you recall the holidays for 2022?
Yes.
Can you tell us, was that a fun time for the Clancys?
Lindsay was struggling. We were all very concerned.
You knew in January.
She was begging for help. This is Patrick Clancy's mother, who had put her in contact with medical professionals, and she did go and see one of them, according to her testimony. This is compelling.
New Year's, actually, that she ended up going
Yes.
to the McLean hospital.
Yes.
You know that she eventually got out of the McLean hospital.
Yes.
fair to say that you and Lindsay, as I said, communicated a lot by text messaging, right?
Yes, correct.
So I'm going to approach you with extraction report. This is a report that is done by the DA's office of the state police, Mr. Whippet, on what's called Celebrate, where they can go into, did they examine your phone?
No.
They examined Lindsay's phone and obtained texts. Have you seen the texts?
I think so.
Okay. I'm going to approach you with the extraction report. Just take a look and see if your telephone number is on there, just for foundation purposes. Or if it is, okay. And just quickly flip through and see if you recognize those texts. We'll have to look at all of them, that's for sure.
You hear how heavy she's breathing? She's up close on the mic as per the judge's instruction. And that would happen
Hear
with
the text
anybody.
between you and Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
And that would happen with anybody up on the mic, just so you guys know. And she's probably very nervous. Most people aren't used to testifying on a huge, in a huge trial like this. And obviously this involves her grandchildren, but that's why we're hearing the breathing, is because judges explain to each of the witnesses to come up, talk straight into the mic, and get as close as possible.
Your Honor, I'm not going to go through each and every text, but I'm going to suggest that I'm going to offer this, and then the jurors would be able to look at what they wish.
Any objection?
Your Honor, Commonwealth makes the same objection to this, and they don't keep doing
All right, over the Commonwealth's objection, that may be admitted.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Commonwealth?
Correct. I said, yes, she's the grandmother. Yes. That too. And this has got to be heartbreaking for her.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you indicated that you were a labor and delivery nurse for 38 years.
Mhm.
And what hospital was that?
South Shore Hospital.
And early on in the defendant's career, did you work with her?
Briefly.
And she then went to Mass General, correct?
Yeah, she was a student at the time.
Okay. And you stated that you are aware of a doctor named Meg Spinelli, correct?
Yes.
Did you reach out to her in this case?
I don't remember exactly how she and I connected. I don't recall.
Well, you indicated that you connected with her in a professional capacity to have her come to your hospital, right?
Yes.
But as far as her role in this case with the defendant, did you reach out to her for that?
I don't think I did. I don't recall.
Now, you said that you began to notice some issues in, defense counsel said October, November, but fair to say you weren't aware of what was going on until she texted you on November 16th when she was
Correct.
at the emergency room.
Yes.
And that was at South Shore Hospital?
Yes.
And you actually met her there at the emergency room?
Yes.
Was she by herself or with Patrick?
She was by herself.
Did you know how she got there?
She drove.
She drove herself to the hospital?
Correct.
And she was in the emergency room for a while, correct?
I don't know how long, probably an hour, maybe 2 hours.
Well, you went down when you knew she was there, sat with her for a little bit, went back upstairs to because you were working that day, right?
Correct. I wasn't able to go down immediately. I had to wait about an hour and a half, and then I went down.
Okay. And then you sat with her for a little bit, went back up to work, right?
Yes.
And then you came back down at some point before she was discharged.
Yes.
Counsel, can I see it, Sidebar, just very briefly?
So I didn't hear any objections to the evidence. I don't know. Somebody said, wait, I think it was Anna Myers said, wait, was there an objection to the evidence? I didn't hear that. it wasn't struck from the record. So I'd have to go back and listen again, and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm not going to do that. But I didn't hear that. Yesterday, the Commonwealth, this district attorney for the Commonwealth, she was brutal with going and questioning Lindsay Clancy's mom about her text messages. Did anybody catch that yesterday? That to me was a low light for the Commonwealth. I didn't really see much meaning to it. Like, I wasn't getting what they were trying to accomplish there, and I watched it after the fact. But let me know by putting a 1 in the chat if you saw that, and was it odd and off-putting and really a turnoff when she was going after Lindsay Clancy's mom.
Came down to the emergency room and you sat with her for a while, correct?
Yes.
And did she tell you, you came down to the emergency room and you sat with her for a while, correct?
Yes.
And did she tell you why she was there?
Yes.
And fair to say, she indicated to you that she was having trouble sleeping and she had some heart palpitations.
Correct.
And that's what brought her to the emergency room to get checked out.
Yes.
Did she tell you that she had consumed a weed gummy before going to the ER that day?
She did not.
Okay. And in your experience as a nurse, is that's sometimes a reaction to THC or CBD or some sort of weed, that somebody might have a faster heartbeat?
I don't know.
Now, when she was in the emergency room, she was seen by a doctor and provided some medication. Were you there when the doctor was there?
Yes.
And you're aware that the ER doctor gave her some trazodone to help her sleep?
Yes.
Because that's what she was really concerned about, right? The sleep.
Yes.
And
I take trazodone for sleep as well, not regularly, but I'm familiar with it.
when she left the emergency room, did you call her an Uber or have Pat come and get her or call your husband to come get her?
No.
She left in her own car, right?
Correct.
And so fair to say, after that ER visit, you remained in pretty constant contact with her, at least via text message,
Yes.
right? And that you would check in with her pretty much daily. And that's all in these texts.
Yes.
Now, you were familiar with the perinatal behavioral health clinic because of your work at South Shore Hospital,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
And so the person actually that you connected with first was not Julie Paul, was it?
No, it was one of the midwives that I was working with.
And her name is Nanette.
I think so.
And so did she provide you with Julie Paul's contact information?
She suggested Julie.
Okay. And as a result of the suggestion, you reached out to Julie with Lindsay's permission, right?
Yes.
And you said that at that point you made the contact, knew she had spoken to Julie, and you kind of stepped back from the clinic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're aware Julie Paul is one of the only prescribers that the defendant encountered that's not personally named in a civil lawsuit that's pending, don't you?
I'm not sure.
Now, so the ER visit's on the 16th. Contact is made with Julie Paul on November 20th, right?
It sounds right.
Okay. And that would have been your phone call to her first.
I don't remember exactly.
In the time period, well, you knew she was going and going to see providers and meeting with Julie and going to the clinic. Did you offer to help out more with the kids?
Yes.
You were still working full-time at that time, weren't you?
Yes.
So fair to say it was kind of limited based on your schedule?
Correct.
Did you have a normal schedule that you worked at that time period?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, as a nurse, did you work day shifts? Did you work mids?
I worked the day shift.
So did you offer to watch the kids at nighttime?
I don't remember exactly.
Did the kids come to?
Mel, don't be sorry for that. I absolutely agree with you 100%. She definitely makes me cringe, this woman. And I've been listening to the replays of every day of this trial, but in the last 2 days, yesterday included and today, she's definitely cringe. Let me know in the chat by putting a 1 how you feel about this Commonwealth prosecutor. She's going really fast and really, it just seems like she's talking down to this woman. For me, it's not a good look. It's not a good look for the jury as well. And they have the burden of proof here. So she's definitely a bad choice. But then again, the Commonwealth sucks.
Stay at your house overnight so that she could get some sleep.
No, they didn't.
Fair to say you offered and she didn't want the kids to come to your house, right?
No, that's not right.
Well, were they, did they ever sleep over your house?
No, they didn't.
And Cora was 5, right?
Yes, correct. She turned 5 that December.
So at any point, they never stayed over.
We decided together it was best for them to be in their own beds at their own house with all their belongings. And Lindsay's parents were very actively involved in staying over and helping out. So it was the best decision that they stay home in their own beds.
So prior to the November of 2022, did you and your husband ever come and stay over the night so that Patrick and Lindsay could go off?
We never did stay at their house.
And as far as kind of watching the kids or taking the kids outside of the house during the daytime, did you often take Cora on kind of day trips out to lunch?
Yeah, we used to go to lunch together.
How about Dawson? Did you take him one-on-one out to?
Not as much. He was younger.
And how about Callan? Did you ever take him out of the house without Lindsay?
No.
And are you aware that Lindsay told one of the therapists that she wasn't close with you as in-laws? And that
I didn't know that, no.
That she said she doesn't generally allow the in-laws to watch her children?
I did watch the kids.
Okay, but are you aware that she told the therapist that?
No.
Are you aware she told the therapist that she didn't have any particular reason why and that they don't bug me about it either?
I didn't know any of that.
Now, Lindsay, the defendant, she communicated with you via text about her issues with sleep and the medication she was taking, right?
Yes.
And as far as the ER visit where the trazodone was prescribed, do you recall having a back and forth conversation with her about that it's okay to increase it if you weren't getting any relief?
The doctor told her that, so I repeated that.
And so you're aware that she was in fact increasing the dose?
I did not know that.
Now, once she was seeing Julie Paul, did you continue to have conversations with her about how she was feeling?
Yes.
And you knew that she was taking some new medications after she saw Julie, right?
Yes.
And sorry, these pages are different than mine.
She's not prepared. She's definitely not prepared. Horrible, horrible look.
At some point, after being prescribed some medication, you recall that Lindsay told you that she thought she developed a benzodependency, correct?
I vaguely remember that.
That'd be on November 29th, where she says, I just deep down inside of me feel that I've developed a benzodependence after just 2 weeks of using it. And I feel like no one is hearing that and addressing it. And we keep throwing different meds in the mix that aren't really addressing the real issue. Do you recall that message?
It sounds familiar.
And she asks you, or you respond, so hard, I don't know what to do. So should you not use it? And she responds, I guess not, but then I don't sleep, right? Do you recall that?
I can't say for certain. It sounds right.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of specifics.
Lou G says, I agree. The judge needs to tell her to move on. The judge cannot tell the Commonwealth to move on, unfortunately. I wish that he would, but he can't interrupt her while she's presenting, while she's cross-examining this witness. So, unfortunately, we just have to sit and listen and grin and bear it. Thank you, Lou G.
And on November 30th, she says, and I'm just gonna.
Gina, I would like to mute her, but I don't want to miss anything. Now she's mumbling to herself under the mic.
She says, I'm not okay and I'm terrified of taking meds tonight. Do you see that in the green?
Yes.
And then your response is, why are you scared? Why happens if you don't take them? What are you afraid of? What about Ambien, right? You're actively trying to help her kind of figure out the medication.
Yes, there were a lot of medications.
Okay. You're aware she wasn't prescribed all the medications at one time, but just a lot of different combinations were kind of thrown around as options, right?
It seemed confusing.
That she's very clear and she tells you which medications she's taking, right? Ativan and Remeron.
Probably.
Okay. And then she also tells you on November 30th when you're talking about it, she says, I know they take time to reach a therapeutic level to have the desired effect, right? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you respond, exactly. And she tells you that she's just depressed and she thinks it was brought on by the medication, right?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, on November 30th at 7:52, I was never, ever this depressed. It was brought on by the medication. Did you say that or did she say that?
She probably said that.
This poor woman. Look at how.
Now, you were asked about the holidays and Thanksgiving. You remember Thanksgiving? Where did you guys go for Thanksgiving?
To my daughter's house.
And do you remember telling the grand jury that during Thanksgiving, things were better?
I don't recall.
Well, do you remember her saying that she said things were better? Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay. You were asked, what was Lindsay like during the big Thanksgiving gathering? What observations did you make? Answer, she smiled. The girls all had Thanksgiving t-shirts on that sort of matched. We took a picture. She mostly focused on the kids and interacting with the cousins and the aunts and uncles. At one point, she went off a little into the distance and I approached and asked her how she was doing. And she said, I'm trying hard to get better. I'm still working at it. I asked about her sleep. I thought that was important. And also the fact that she lost some weight. She didn't have an appetite. And she said things were getting better.
Okay.
Now, during the holidays, you in fact took some time off of work so that you were around a little bit more, correct?
Correct.
And so when you were around a little bit more, did you spend all day, every day at their house?
No.
Fair to say you would come sometimes play with the kids, right?
Yes.
Do shopping for her.
Correct.
And then you actually went on vacation.
Yes.
You and your husband went to Aruba.
Yes.
How long were you in Aruba?
5 or 6 days, I think.
And now moving towards Christmas, you had dinner with them at their house on the 23rd, right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember breakfast on Christmas Day?
Yes.
Was that at their house or someplace else?
Their house.
Okay. And then what did you guys do after breakfast?
We went to church.
And fair to say you've previously testified that breakfast was great
Yes.
and that church was beautiful.
Yes.
And in fact, the defendant, she told you that it was great and that she was glad she went to church that day on Christmas Day.
Yes, she did.
And then after that, you're aware they went down to Connecticut to see her family.
Right.
Now, are you an active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes.
So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Counsel, could I see you over here?
Okay, on the stand is Patrick Clancy's mom. This is the mother-in-law of Lindsay. The judge has just called Commonwealth to a sidebar. I would love to be a fly on the wall on this sidebar. That's for sure. Mary Ellen Harris, good to see you. Karen Cole, Legal Minded Friends, good to see you. First day back from vacation, and we are jumping in on day 15 of this trial to try to give you guys a little bit of our perspective. Ed Wallace is out for the day. He's got appointments with his parents. So Ed is on the sidelines. I decided to jump in here before I head out to Sloan Kettering for some cancer treatment in the middle of the day. I have to leave midday. So I got another about 2 or 3 hours with you guys. I'm glad to see and hear everybody's opinions in the chat, just respectfully back and forth. You guys are what they call top-notch, high-class true crime YouTube connoisseurs. So I appreciate everybody in this community. Thank you for being here. Mel Stiller, good to see you from Canada. Yeah, it seems like this 164 says they're reaching for anything at this point. I feel the Commonwealth the last day and a half, this is a day and a half now, with the defense having the case. I think day one and going into day two, they're colossal failures for them. I know that they've sucked all along here, but this takes it to a new level, I believe. Their approach, this female prosecutor's approach, really sucks. And
All right. And what that means is you are not to consider it for any reason or any purpose. Okay?
oh,
All right. Counsel.
So you were aware, Mrs. Clancy, about the
hold on, I got to go back because I want to see exactly what happened.
active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes.
So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Counsel, could I see you over?
Okay, so it was that statement right there. You're a member of the Catholic Church, and she said yes. And he said, then she said, you are aware that murder is a mortal sin? So the judge, based on that, instructed the jury that you are not to take that statement into your decision making here, which is this. We're going to listen to it again slowly. This was a good catch by the judge.
Active member in down to Connecticut to see her family.
Right.
Now, are you active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes.
So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Counsel, could I see you over here?
Okay, so that was it right there. That That was a low blow right there. So we're going to fast forward back to the judge's instructions, and I'll keep it slow. You have to slow it down because she talks kind of fast. But let's hear what his instruction is to the jury.
For any reason or any purpose. And what that means is
Okay, let's listen to this.
all right. And what that means is you are not to consider it for any reason or any purpose. Okay? All right. Counsel.
So you were aware, Mrs. Clancy, about the stay at McLean Hospital from January 1st to January 5th, correct?
Yes.
And did you come to the house to help with the kids during that time period?
Yes.
And fair to say, when she came home on the 5th, there was a party for Cora on the 7th.
Yes.
Did you go to the birthday party?
No.
Were you at the house much between January 7th and January 24th?
I don't remember.
Do you recall previously reporting that you hadn't been at the house?
I don't remember.
And during that time period, you never took the kids on a day trip or for a visit?
I don't recall.
And were you aware that between January 7th and January 24th that Pat and Lindsay went to the Cape Codder with the kids?
I'm aware of that.
And that they went to the Museum of Science with the kids?
Yes.
And that Pat left Dawson and Callan home, or excuse me, left Dawson and Callan home to go take Cora skiing. Were you aware of that?
It sounds accurate to me.
On the ski trip, did they ask you to come over and stay with Lindsay while she was with the other kids?
I don't remember.
And you were asked on direct examination about Lindsay going to see providers, and you said, I think she was begging for help, right?
She was.
Did you attend any of those meetings with her therapists or doctors?
No.
So you don't know what she told the providers, right?
I don't know.
And you don't know what kind of help she asked for other than medication, do you?
No.
And do you know whether there was any other options offered to her other than McLean, like a partial hospitalization program or intensive outpatient? Were you aware?
Morgan, it was the same. It's more of the same from yesterday. This was the theme for yesterday. You couldn't really understand what their purpose was and what they were trying to do, but clearly that statement. You're a member of the Catholic religion? Are you aware that murder is a mortal sin? You could see the look on Mrs. Clancy's face. She, Patrick Clancy's mom, she was just shocked by that statement, and she was jarred by it because she hasn't looked the same since that statement was made, and it was so unprofessional of this prosecutor from the Commonwealth. But I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised at all by this.
Of those options?
Yeah.
And do you know if she went?
She went to Women and Infants.
So that's the one day where Pat dropped her off and went skiing and then came back, right?
I believe so.
Nothing further.
Let's listen to the
Mr.
defense.
Springton, redirect.
So he asked you about options that were available to Lindsay, correct?
Yes.
You mentioned one of them was that she could go to the Women and Infants program in Rhode Island that specializes in perinatal and postpartum, right?
Yes.
You know that she went there, right?
Correct.
You know she was turned away because she was over-medicated, right?
Yes.
You also know that they gave her numbers to call suicide hotlines, right?
Yes.
She called twice, not once, but twice, and again was turned away. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Come on.
So you're aware she was turned away because she told you she was turned away, right?
I don't remember the details of that visit or that day.
You didn't review the records, did you?
No,
So you're not aware that they actually deferred to Pat and Lindsay reporting over medication?
I remember something being said that she wasn't a candidate for that program. That's what I recall being told by Patrick and Lindsay.
Okay. And that's because everything she described was reported connected to medication and occurred well after what's considered the postpartum period, right?
I don't know.
Well, you're a labor and delivery nurse. You know the postpartum period could be up to a year, right?
I've heard it could be longer.
But generally, it's within the first 12 weeks that you start to see some symptoms.
I don't know.
You're aware that she was sent from women and infants with actually several options, where it included inpatient treatment for medication management, a partial hospitalization program focused on general mental health, or continued outpatient management. That's what she was sent away with.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Okay, one more.
Go ahead. One.
So outpatient management, that would include somebody like Gelada, right?
Yes.
You know that women and infants called Gelada and she never called them back?
I didn't know that.
Come on, anything on that? All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me step down. Thank you.
That was brutal, folks.
All right, well, members of the jury, this is one of those stops I told you about. We're going to have kind of throughout today. So I'm going to ask you to go back to the jury room, hopefully just for a short amount of time. Then we'll bring you right back in and we'll continue with the evidence. Okay.
There's Lindsay Clancy's mom.
All right, please, for a second. Jurors of excellent decorum, this court is acceptably succeeded.
We got a good view of the black bow that Karen Cole, Legal Minded Friends, was mentioning to us in the chat.
All right, counsel, I know that the next witness is scheduled to be Dr. La Posada.
Yes.
And she will be testifying by Zoom.
That's correct.
And I think that at some point after we talk a little bit, we're going to have to take a short break just to make sure that logistically everything's all set up with the doctor and the system here. And I appreciate everybody's help technically in setting that up. And I know that the defendant has provided maybe 5 or 6 exhibits that counsel wanted to introduce through Dr. La Posada. And so I guess, Commonwealth, if you had an opportunity to take a look at these.
Yes, and we are objecting to these
No.
items.
All right. And so why don't we discuss those here in open court and go through it. And so I've had the opportunity, I saw these this morning as well. And so Commonwealth, why don't I hear the objections and then I'll hear from the defendant.
The main objection is that the drawing is inaccurate. The window well is in the wrong place. And where they have her falling and landing in slide 4 would be where the window well is actually placed in the photograph. I can pass up the photograph to the court. This is in evidence, I believe, maybe a couple times. But talks are discretionary, but what they should not do is mislead a jury and present information that's not accurate. And so the drawing itself is inaccurate. And so we're objecting to these slides.
Is that the Commonwealth's objection, is that the window well is in the wrong place on the drawing?
And putting aside the late disclosure and the fact that I don't know if anyone who created this is going to come in and testify that they created it and whether it's to scale or not, but the main objection is that it's inaccurate.
All right, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you. Your Honor, obviously, the window well, you've got, this thing is ridiculous.
Of a drawing of the house where the window she jumped out of after she committed these heinous the heinous act of murdering her kids. How important is this? And we're going to hear from Dr. Lamposada. We heard from her in the Karen Reed trial. No, so interesting, right? How you doing, Ed?
Hey, Ron, good. Hanging in there. Yeah, this is something that's in my bailiwick because I've seen this time and time again with diagrams. You know, usually when you're going to introduce a diagram, you don't do it through this witness. You do it through first the person that produced the diagram. And then they will be vardiered about the diagram and whether it is a fair and accurate representation of the scene, and is it to scale? If it's not to scale, then it should say that on the diagram, not to scale. And so the DA may have a legitimate argument here if in fact it is inaccurate.
Yeah. All right, let's listen.
Oh,
He's trying to show it here, and this is the defense attorney.
the window well, you already have a copy.
I do, yeah.
The window well is depicted on the diagram, I suggest, accurately. And in fact, measurements were taken by the gentleman who did the computer animation in conjunction with information by way of medical provided by Dr. Lamposada. And it shows clearly that, as Ronna can see, that we're talking about the x-rays that are included. There are exhibits that she attaches that shows the way that she falls, how she hits her head. The Commonwealth has been suggesting that, I guess, that they're confused as to how she would have ended up the way she did. This shows the way that she landed on her head, gets to Jefferson fracture, falls back, legs are facing out from the house. She's laying in the snow. They're all depicted there. If there's an issue with the window well that's off according to the government, they could raise that on cross. They could say, well, the window well was really 6 inches to the left instead of to the right. That never struck her anyway. It's totally irrelevant. I think that they are useful for a jury to be able to review. I did have copies made for the jurors and the court, as well as the DAs. And Dr. Lamposada has it. And then I could go, I could go through, but you can see that we've taken the diagram, the window, where the body lands, and then to the right of it would be the actual x-ray. Dr. Lamposada can compare the injuries, talk about the Jefferson fracture. There's a photograph that shows the blood in the snow, shows the area, and the photograph actually shows the window well. And I suggest the window well on page 6 is exactly the way we have it depicted. So I don't know what the objection is. I would ask that the court would allow this to be in.
All right. Well, I guess it appears to be slides 4, 5, and 6 certainly go towards the doctor's opinion as to, we said, the mechanism of the injury that shows the head striking of the ground. And then on the other part of the slide has the x-rays, and there's also a slide regarding the Jefferson fracture diagram. And then 5 is a diagram showing how the thoracic spine injury could have occurred. And there's a diagram regarding the thoracic spine, specifically T6. And then slide 6 shows and I think there has been testimony as that is where the defendant was found. And also then there's a thoracic spine, I think it's either an x-ray or some type of scan, as well as some of the additional medical devices that were found in that area. I'm not quite sure about 1, 2, and 3.
That's fine. I can remove 1, I can remove 2, and we'll just focus, if you want, on 3 through 6.
I think that goes more towards the doctor's background and kind of what had been offered in regards to her opinion.
Your Honor, I think you said you were unsure of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And defense said he could go with 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 3 was an issue, was it not?
What's wrong with 3?
Well, I think, again, I think 4 kind of would cover what's dealing with that. All right. So I would allow in slide 4, slide 5, and slide 6.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Not our answer.
And so what we'll do is, objection noted. And then what we'll do is take a short break at this point, set up the Zoom call. Also, I know we're going to have to probably make certain changes to the jury book that was going to be presented. So the only slides that will be in that book will be, like I said, just so we know.
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, just so we know which ones you're talking about.
There's a book.
Well, no, it's not a book. It's just Laura stapled together all of the exhibits.
So just so we know what we're talking about, right? 4 and 5 is the thoracic spine.
Yes, and like I say, I've got enough for the jurors plus you and the DAs.
Okay, and then 6, I just kind of want to make sure that we're all talking the same.
6.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we do that? We'll take a short break so that those changes can be made and we can set up for the Zoom, and then we'll come back out and we'll proceed with Dr. Lapasada.
Thank you.
Okay.
All day, every day at their house.
Okay. Ed, welcome, by the way. I appreciate you. I know you had a busy schedule today, so thank you for being here. I see you're out at the Jersey Shore house, so good to see you. Before you came on, I don't know what you heard or what you were listening to, or if you had a chance to listen to anything, but in the testimony given by Patrick Clancy's mother, as we see here on the stand, towards the latter part of the testimony, the district attorney from the Commonwealth said to her, "You are a member of the Catholic Church, right?" And she answers, "Right." And I have it queued up here to play. And then she says, "You are aware that murder is sacred." I forget the exact wording, but the way she went about this, let's just listen to here.
Great, and that she was glad she went to church that day on Christmas Day.
Yes, she did.
And then after that, you're aware they went down to Connecticut to see her family.
Right.
Now, are you an active member in the Catholic Church?
Yes.
So you're aware that murder is considered a mortal sin?
Are you aware that murder is a mortal sin? The judge immediately called the sidebar and struck that from the record. Ed, your thoughts on that?
As well, he should be, and she should be reprimanded because this has no probative value to the case in chief. What the hell? I mean, this is ridiculous. That was a totally unprofessional move on the part of the prosecutor to start bringing up, and so was suicide. Was she going to go down that road too, jumping out the window to commit suicide? This isn't the time or place to have that kind of discussion, and there's no evidential part of that in this case.
Yeah. It was disturbing to hear that, and the judge immediately stopped her and said, counsel, can I see you here at Sidebar? Many people in the chat were outraged by that, and I personally was outraged by it, and I couldn't believe that I actually heard it because it went by. This district attorney speaks very fast, so I slowed it down to like 90%. And when we slow it down, you could hear her. She tried to sneakily slip that in by talking really fast. I missed it at first, but when he called that sidebar, I said, let me hear what happened. And we went back to it. So let us know what you think in the chat.
I think we're both Catholic, right, Ron?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And I, even in between high school and college, contemplated becoming a priest and went to a seminary for a short time, St. Joseph Seminary, to see what the life was like. I decided in a different direction. But I know what the tenets of my faith are. I know what's a mortal sin and what's not a mortal sin, but that's not the case. That's not part of this case. Especially if you're dealing with someone who is on all these psychotropic drugs and also has is dealing with these suicidal and thing, because suicide is against our religion as well. But,
right.
It has no place here. Now, there was another area that I did catch when you were playing, right, and I came on late. I did see her in what would appear to be a cross-examination of a witness actually testifying herself. She wasn't asking questions per se, but rather testifying, to something the witness was not speaking of. And I don't know how that wasn't objected to by the defense counsel or how the judge didn't put a stop to it. Now it's in the record.
Yeah. It's disturbing. What are we expecting to hear from Dr. Lamposata? I'm going to put you full screen and let you talk. I got to run to the men's room. I'll be back, but take it from here. What are we going to be seeing here when Dr. Lamposata comes on the stage, Ed? Tell her.
Well, I believe the good doctor is going to come on and talk about the injury sustained by the defendant in the manner that it was sustained. And because I believe the prosecution doesn't agree with the way the injuries occurred, or if in fact the injuries were occurred in this manner that the defense has suggested, and to rebut any other testimony that the prosecution may have put on that stated or downplayed the injuries that were sustained here. So that's what I believe she's going to come on. And we all know the good doctor from another high-profile trial in the Commonwealth, I'm sorry. And she is not going to put up with any of this nonsense from this prosecutor. If the prosecutor is going to be hostile and aggressive, she's going to shut that right down. And I hope this prosecutor understands what type of expert witness she's about to encounter, because we all know that Dr. Lamposata has no qualms about slapping people down from the witness stand. So that said, hey, it's good to be here with you all, and thank you for your warm welcomes when I came on. I've been dealing with a lot myself. I know Ron has been talking to you about what he's been dealing with, but my family and I have been dealing with a lot of things. And when the appropriate time comes, we'll have that discussion amongst us, because I do consider you all part of my family, my extended true crime family.
Yeah, Ed, I while visiting the men's room, I wasn't listening to what you said. I'm sure you gave a great overview of Dr. Lamposata, what we can expect from her. We saw her in the Karen Reed trial. She actually wound up being instrumental for the defense in her testimony and so forth. But, we're going to hear about the injuries. that were sustained by Lindsay Clancy when she attempted to take her own life by jumping out of the second floor window of her home. And Ed, I know you were alluding to some of the stuff that I had made no mention of that whatsoever.
No.
You know, again, like I said, at the appropriate time when you feel it's appropriate, we'll get into that with our members.
I would just like to ask everybody for prayers from my family. Okay?
Yes. Yeah. I asked for that earlier for myself and for you. Yeah, continue to pray for Ed and his family. He's going through a tough patch there. So thank you to everybody in the chat. Let me just see where we're at. If we still got the, yep, we still have the dreaded seal of the state of Massachusetts. Folks, again, I mentioned briefly about postpartum stress disorder, and there's various different okay. All right. Ed didn't mute his phone and it was across the room, but I got to the switchboard to mute it. So that's Ed's ringtones on his phone. But, you know, as it pertains to postpartum stress disorder, that's the central attention of this trial. Lindsay Clancy, as we know, killed her 3 children. And her defense is that she was in postpartum psychosis due to extreme medications that were prescribed to her by healthcare providers. And, you know, I alluded to, and I mentioned to you guys earlier that my wife, with the birth of both of our children, especially our first son 35 years ago, went through severe postpartum stress disorder. And it was a personal issue, and it was a personal thing that we dealt with as a family. And I said it, and I will continue to say this, the best advocate and the best shield for someone going through this is their own family, not doctors. Because as Ed could tell you, and as I could tell you, sometimes the doctors don't get it right. Sometimes the medications that are prescribed are not in the best interest of the individual. It's just part of protocol. Okay, this person exhibits this, we prescribe this. This person is exhibiting this, we'll prescribe something else. And that's the game that we see here. And there's a list. I have a list here of 16 different medications that Lindsay Clancy was prescribed legally and was taking. She was a registered nurse. She worked in the labor and delivery department. That doesn't mean she was a superwoman. That doesn't mean that she should have known better. At the end of the day, she was crying out for help, and the help that she got was not adequate. It was hurting her more than helping her, in my opinion. Now, we could all be wrong about this, but at the end of the day, that medication, I believe, did not serve her properly and made the situation worse. Ed?
I have a big issue with the psychotropic drugs, okay? If you look at most of the mass shootings in the United States, the majority of these are committed by people suffering from mental illness and on these drugs, okay? They're over prescribed, in my opinion, okay? And sometimes it's a cocktail of these drugs, and it looks like they're starting up.
No, I'm just letting this play.
Oh, okay. It's a cocktail of these drugs, and while most of these drugs, you know if they have any adverse interaction with the other drugs that are prescribed, okay? But somebody, the pharmacist, the doctors, should have seen all these different drugs and said, this is not good. This is not right. There are way too many prescribed drugs here for this woman.
And also, Ed, I want to add, don't lose your thought, but I want to add this into the mix. She's a fellow healthcare provider. She's a registered nurse. Do you think that these psychiatrists, psychologists, and doctors that she saw would say, hey, let's go an extra step here? And this doesn't necessarily happen as we see in this case. It didn't happen. But like, it would be like us. If we were going to a home of a cop that needs help, We're going to help that cop. We're going to do a little bit extra. They didn't do a little extra. They actually just went through the motions and just shrugged her to the side and pushed her to the side. I'm just trying to be real here. If you know that there's someone from your trade, if I go to a mechanic and I'm a mechanic and say, hey, look, I got a blown out shoulder. I need you to do a brake job, or I need, some engine work. You would think that the guy's like, we're in the trades together. Let me hook you up. Let me do the right thing by you. They fucked up. They didn't. Ed, am I off base on this?
No, I don't think you're off base at all. Now, there are people that are saying, well, she's a medical health professional and she should have known better herself. Well, yeah, if you were thinking soundly, yeah. Right. But when you're in that kind of pain and you're in that kind of suffering and you can't understand right from wrong, okay, and you just want relief. Like, for instance, my 91-year-old father is having severe back pains, and I went down the road with him with pain management, and he's been through 7 procedures at the pain management doctor, several epidurals, several ablations, and he has not gotten any relief. Okay. And he is truly suffering. Okay. So when people get into that desperate area of dealing with medical issues and pain and suffering, they're capable of doing anything to get relief. Okay. And you could see, based on the testimony that has come out thus far, there were numerous attempts to get help here. Okay. And from different sources, and it all appears to have evaporated for her, and it didn't occur. Okay. So this is a really tough case. Okay. Because, I have had numerous cases where mothers have killed their children. I've had mothers throw 3 children out of a multi-story apartment complex and, out the window and killed them that way. I've had mothers who decided they were going to commit suicide, but first they killed their children because they didn't want their children with anybody else, and then took their lives. I've had all of these kind of heartbreaking cases, and you can see the desperation of these individuals. You can feel it. It's palpable. Okay. And it just thinking about it now, hurts me to remember these things, about, what I've seen and what these people have done to their own children.
Right.
Okay. And you would like to think that, nobody would do that to their child. Yeah. But if you're not reasonable, if your mind is not in the right place, okay, and you're capable of doing these things. Everybody is capable of doing these things. I can't say, well, I would never do that. I hear people say this all the time. Well, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know what you would do. Okay.
It reminds me of a 1994 case that I handled on patrol, Ed. It was a 31-year-old mother of 4 children. She took her newborn baby, wasn't even 2 months old, and it was at the Cypress houses in East New York. She took her newborn baby and threw him out the 5th floor window, and the boy landed on an overhang. And all of the people, when we responded, that were there holding their heads in shock and screaming and crying, were saying what kind of how wonderful of a mother she is to the remaining kids and how well she took care of them. And I remember this case like it was yesterday. The detectives who handled it said she was at the G building at the Kings County Psychiatric unit numerous times and was on, I think they said 14 or 15 different medications, Thorazine, Toradol, all of the different cocktails that and she was not herself. She got locked up. She went to jail. I don't know what happened with the case, but she was clearly suffering from postpartum psychosis. And I'll never forget that till the day I die, being on that being the first officer on that scene and going to the medical examiner's office and seeing that little body. And you just can't imagine how anybody could do that in their right mind.
Yeah, because again, the point is they're not in their right mind. Okay. And here's another thing. Like I said, the pharmaceutical industry and the chemistry of these drugs, they know about adverse reactions between their drugs and other drugs. But what they don't know, and what they could never know, is because of the genetics of each of the individuals, the effects are going to be totally different on one person to the next person. And they don't know, when you give a cocktail like this, the synergistic effects of all of these different psychotropic drugs being taken, okay, and how each individual is going to react to that cocktail. Now, I remember, the Golf Wall syndrome. Many people were saying it was because of the burn pits, but other doctors were saying it was because when we went over to the first Gulf War, we gave all of our military personnel all of their inoculations at the same time. And they were never meant to be given all at once. It was supposed to be spread out over time. But no, they put them in a production line, and they went down this line and they hit all of our military personnel with all these vaccines and injections at the same time. Okay. And they said the same thing to us at 9/11. Okay. They can give you all the toxic chemicals that were found in the debris at 9/11. And they know all of the carcinogenic materials that were present. And they know the timeline of exposure to a specific carcinogenic material from 9/11, from time of exposure to, and the amount of exposure to the time of cancer, when those ranges are going to pop. But what they never will know, and they can't know, is when you mix all of those carcinogens together, okay, when is the impact of that cancer going to rear its ugly head? Okay, the synergistic effect of all of those carcinogenic materials. Now, there were a lot of egos involved in here in the medical community, and a lot of egos said things that were not true. It was just based on ego and not science. Okay, and a lot of that seems to be happening these days. Okay, and when this happens, people pay for it with their lives. Okay, millions have died and have been permanently injured because of egos and not science. Okay,
right. And
that
no
said,
two systems react the same way. No two bodies react the same way to medications. So you can't just take protocols and put them into place for every individual that presents with the same type of symptoms, because my symptoms could be the same as yours and get prescribed the same medication, and I have adverse effects and you don't. So this is where it all goes wrong. Listen, I want to just, I'm monitoring the court. I want to play a little bit of what occurred yesterday and what the district attorneys and what the defense is trying to accomplish here. So let me play this. This is from day 14. Let's take a listen to this while we wait for court to come back up.
Welcome back. Today marks day 14 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The Connecticut native is accused of murdering her 3 young children in their Duxbury, Massachusetts home in January of 2023. Today, the prosecution rested and the defense began presenting its case. Lindsay Clancy's own mother and sister took the stand. Joining us now live is Ryan McGuigan, defense attorney and former prosecutor, to break down what happened today in court. Ryan, it's great to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
And I think what's important to note is the prosecution strategy in this and also the defense strategy. The prosecution argues this was premeditated murder, that Lindsay Clancy rationally planned this out. The defense argues Clancy lacks criminal responsibility because she was experiencing postpartum psychosis at the time of the killings. Okay, so the last witness that was called for the prosecution was a forensic expert who looked at the phone data. Why is this digital evidence so important, Ryan?
Well, there seems to be a tension between postpartum psychosis and whether or not that can coexist with planning and premeditation. And you'll find through the experts that they'll most likely state that no, it doesn't, and that people who are psychotic don't plan what they're doing and don't try to hide what they're doing because they don't understand that what they're doing is wrong. So with the phone data, what it was demonstrating is that she had made a plan about where her husband was going to be that morning, how long he was going to be away. She mapped out his route to figure out how many minutes it would take him to return. And then most importantly is she took the children downstairs where they couldn't be heard by the neighbors. Now, all of that would indicate two things. A, that she was aware of what she was doing. And B, she was aware that what she was doing was wrong, because you wouldn't try to hide it from anybody if you thought, like within the psychotic state, that the devil was after you. If you stab the devil, nobody will think that you've done something wrong. You've just done a good thing, actually. So that was the importance of that testimony.
We have about a minute left here, Ryan. It was now the defense's turn. What is the defense doing by calling on family members like Clancy's mother and sister, calling them to the stand today?
They would like to humanize her. They would like to show that she's not a monster, and that she was at some time a wonderful person, and she's not the kind of person who in her right mind would do this. And that's what they want to show, is that at some point she was doing great, and then she had this long history of mental health problems after having her children, and therefore the person that murdered her children is not the person that they know.
And what stands out to you in this case? And I'm sure there's many things, but what stands out to you?
What stands out for me is what we haven't heard yet. And that is the sort of the battle of the experts. The state hasn't put on their expert to analyze the entire case. They have some forensic experts. But what will happen is the defense is going to put on an expert that is going to say that she was psychotic. And then you will hear from the state's expert that will go through all of these pieces of evidence that demonstrate that she was not. So that's what stands out to me, is what we...
So, Ed, I thought that this was some of the better analysis of yesterday's testimony, because it was confusing to some of the people where they were trying to go here. And
Yeah, I did see this.
you basically summed it up in layman's terms in a very short period of time to say, hey, look, the Commonwealth has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she premeditated and planned this. And the defense has to show that she was in this psychosis where she couldn't have planned it. But because of that digital evidence of her trying to get him to go out, they're trying to present that as, hey, she knew what she was doing, because if she didn't know what she was doing, she wouldn't have gone this far. So does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what he's trying to say, but there's a flip side to that coin too, and I'm sure that's going to be argued.
Absolutely, 100%. So I wanted to present to the chat, and I like to be interactive with everybody, and I love and appreciate all of your, all of your thoughts. And look, everybody has opinions and thoughts. I think the trial's coming back on with Dr. Lamposada, so let's go to that real quick here. But I wanted to present to you guys, what do you guys think? Is she going to be found guilty, not criminally responsible by reason of insanity, or a hung jury? So press 1 if you feel she will be found guilty. Press 2, not criminally responsible. Press 3 for a hung jury. I'd like to get a little poll going, and then we'll, Ed, give me 2 seconds and we'll pull up the live trial. What do you think, Ed? What are you putting in the chat? A 1, 2, or a 3?
Well, if it was if it was me that was on trial, I would have went with a judge instead of a jury. And I think so far she may be able to win this.
Okay. So it's a number 2 for Ed Wallace. I think there's a lot of number 2s in the chat. I think they outweigh the number 3s and the number 1s. Let's take a listen to Dr. Lamposada. Ed, I know you gave us a little overview. What are you expecting from her? A lot of goodness?
Yeah, a lot of goodness, a lot of fireworks.
I know, I'm not sure. I'm probably the wrong person to ask in regards to that.
I'm right behind you.
Sounds like technical difficulties. This is going to be by Zoom. And Ed, we know how this can go. It can go good or it can go bad, right?
Yeah, depending on what Dr. Lamposada's Wi-Fi is. You know, it could be another case of our good friend from out in where she's in Tennessee, or no, she's in
oh no, that was the Twyla. She's in Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Right.
What Twyla's internet connection is.
Yeah. Dr. Lamposada hopefully doesn't have a Twyla connection. I hear it's crackling already. Oh my goodness.
Hello.
There she is.
Can anybody hear me?
Have a nice day. Is anyone there?
She's got the whole courtroom laughing.
Hold on, Doc.
I'm not sure this is going to work at this point. So why don't we see if we can get somebody
Oh no.
to address this.
You can see your leg.
We'll get it done. But it'll cost somebody.
This is the disaster of doing remote stuff. If the person doesn't have a good connection or if the court's not picking it up good, Ed and I say a Hail Mary before we get guests on that we're not familiar with, that we've never had on before. And we're like, do you have a good internet connection? Yes. Now, all of a sudden we're hearing delayed, echoing, pixelation. Lamposada's video appearance looks good. It's just the audio connection, which is what they're having a problem with.
FTR or somebody. So why don't we take a further break?
Okay, so we're back to a break. Ed, so look, we were talking about the different various failures as it pertains to all different types of diseases and so forth. But mental health is this is a problem in not just the United States but worldwide, where treatment isn't done properly, and people, like we said, she's in the medical field. You would think that they would have gone over the top or tried extra to help her, and everybody should get the same level of care. There's no argument there. Everybody, just regular Joe Q citizens, should get the same level of care as a doctor or a nurse or somebody. But what we're saying is the real, look, if you don't like the real deal, then don't listen to us. But when you are somebody from the trades, it doesn't matter if you're a cop, doctor, you going in, you would assume that someone from your own trade would try to do a little extra or look out for you or check up on you or follow up with you a little extra. And that didn't happen here. As a matter of fact, she was just dismissed on a lot of different levels, sent home. You don't qualify for this particular program. And there was no, hey, but there's something we could do for you. There's some other thing we could do for you.
Look,
so
can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you and I, law enforcement, fire, EMS, we're considered, plus others, are considered emergency responders. Nurses and doctors and physicians' assistants and so forth and so on are considered the first receivers. We all have very stressful jobs, okay? And in this emergency response community, okay, whether it's dealing with a gunshot wound or a pandemic, it doesn't matter. There is a lot of stress put on these people, okay? And more so than the average person in our society, I would say. Okay, I mean, there are some other very high stress jobs that I didn't mention, but here's the thing too. In a lot of cases in the military as well, and I throw them in there because of the fact that the suicide rates in these professions are quite high. Okay, and they're quite high because society has vilified people with mental illness and associate mental illness with weakness and being weak and not being strong enough, okay, to handle it, okay? And if you, and many times, if you seek help and your profession finds out about it, you're done. They'll take away your license. They'll take away your gun and your badge, your shield, or whatever the case may be. They'll survey you off your job, okay? And that has to stop. That has to stop. There has to be a way that people who need help can come forward without being judged like that to get the appropriate health care that they need in order to make them whole again. And not just because, think about it. Okay, you did several years of service in the military and your combat service or whatever the case may be, or you were a cop or you were a fireman or you were EMS or you're emergency room personnel, and you're dealing with the things that most people in our society don't see. Okay, the inhumanity of humanity, if you will, and what people are capable of doing to each other. And you're dealing with all this stress, and you have people's lives depending on you. Okay, how do you just once you find out that a person in your profession is suffering with these things, do you terminate them and just cut them loose? You're just making the situation worse. Okay, these people, cops, firemen, EMS, emergency room personnel, military, we're not just numbers. Okay, we're not just numbers. We're people. Okay, and we've dedicated a life of service. That's why we're called civil service. We're dedicated a life of service to these communities that we serve, and if we come from the very communities that we're serving in most cases. So if there has to be a way for you to take care of these people that are suffering with these mental illnesses, to make them good and whole again, and not just discarding them like a piece of trash.
Yeah.
Okay, you were good up until this point. You're no good anymore, and we're not going to try and help you.
Getting them better and getting to a point where they can continue to serve the communities that they served proudly prior to these afflictions is what the end goal should be. And it's not happening. And it's not happening for regular, everyday people as well. And that's the real tragedy here, is that our healthcare system, and especially the mental health care system, since 1991, when I was a cop, and you were a cop before me, way before me, the system was broke as it pertains to mental health care. And it continues to be broke, and it continues to not get fixed in the right way, in the right direction. Putting people out of their jobs and careers, labeling them as wackos or crazy is not helping a situation. And I would assume that in Lindsay's case here, she was afraid of that and was hiding and holding back. How many moms in the chat or watching the replay have bad days and just don't want to put the burden on their significant others or their family and just hold it in and just continue to operate and function and put a smiley face on and go about your day when things aren't really okay? And I have to assume that this is what the situation was with her way before she started trying to seek help. And even during the time she was trying to seek help, when people would ask her, like her mom or her mother-in-law or friends and sisters and brother, how are you doing? I'm okay. Yeah, I'll be okay. That's the common answer to that. And it's just, look, this is really a difficult case to discuss, a difficult case to talk about, because no two people are going to agree. But at the end of the day, we have to do better. And more and more people's lives are affected, and innocent people. These are innocent children. These 3 children, lives were ended so viciously and so tragically due to a mental health condition, in my opinion. So,
Well,
let's see
in
what
the 70s, we had all the problems with our mental institutions being abused and treating the patients that are in there, for experiments and the bad abuse. But so what did they do? Geraldo Rivera made his career off of Willowbrook in Staten Island, Willowbrook State Institute. So what did they do? They got rid of all the state institutes. Okay, instead of trying to fix them and reform them, they just defunded them and got rid of them, and then put all these mentally ill people out in the streets, homeless, and many addicted to drugs and so forth. And look what that has done to our society. Okay. So, I mean, obviously the answer was not to defund all of these mental health facilities, but to reform them and to fix them and to give these people a chance to get better. And I do know people who were diagnosed with some serious mental illnesses and after treatment got themselves back on their feet and are fully functioning in today's society, law-abiding citizens, and several of them I know are multimillionaires now. Okay, so you can't just have these knee-jerk reactions.
Right. Yeah. I agree, Ed. And your take on this is so spot on. And we know better than most because we've dealt with this for decades with people that we serve. And like I said before you came on, emotionally disturbed, the EDP calls, emotionally disturbed person, that was our acronym for emotionally disturbed people. Those calls, along with domestic violence calls, were the highest number of calls while on patrol that I responded to. The domestics and the emotionally disturbed persons. And it was eye-opening and shocking as a 26-year-old young lad when I became a cop in 1991. Now I'm showing my age. Ed. In 91, when I was 26 years young, I was shocked at how many emotionally disturbed people are walking around the 5 boroughs, especially East New York and Brownsville, where I worked. And it was so shocking to me that I actually came home and told my significant other, my wife, like, oh my God, I didn't realize how many mentally ill people are walking around in society on a daily basis and how not more people are either hurt by them or them hurting themselves. And I slowly and surely saw how much hurt and pain and infliction of violence that the people that were untreated and not properly treated were walking around in society. We have people pushed in front of subway cars on a regular basis here in New York City. We have people attacked with knives. We have the student from outside the country just early this morning attacked for no reason by somebody who was emotionally disturbed with a knife. So it just continues on and on and on. I think the court's coming back up. I see movement at the camera. Hopefully Lamposada's connection is good. Ed, I'm going to send you a message in the chat, Ed.
Okay. Ron, there's no sound.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't, the sound should be on now.
Yeah.
It's on now?
So the objection is that we were provided with an affidavit. The original affidavit that was provided, council agreed that it
So Lamposadas can't get the sound right, so they're going to go to the another witness here for the defense.
referred to standard of care, which is not the issue in this case. Really reflects his opinions in the case. So we were provided another affidavit, which appears to actually have the same numbered paragraphs and just delete the ultimate opinion section and adds that Dr. Tufts and Nurse Gelada were aware that Lindsay was experiencing symptoms of suicidal ideation and a critically deteriorating condition while under their care, and failed to take reasonable steps. So it's unclear from his affidavit what exactly he's going to testify to. Is he going to just reiterate everything that has been presented in the records, everything that we would expect defense counsel to offer through expert testimony in the criminal responsibility era about the medication regimens that the defendant was on over the course of several months? Because if that's the case, then I would suggest that this is cumulative testimony and that it doesn't need to be presented in this manner to the jury.
But let me ask this, similar to the question I asked earlier, to a similar objection regarding cumulative. The defense hasn't put it. This is their first witness in regards to that. Wouldn't the cumulative analysis be done if there's a follow-up expert that would be addressing these areas?
Potentially, but that then becomes the defense's strategic choice, whether if they're going to call Dr. Condie for this piece of it and the other experts for another piece of it, it's unclear, especially where the reports we've been provided by Dr. Spinelli and Dr. Zeisel talk about polypharmacology as part of the basis of their opinions in this case. So it's difficult to assess that, and obviously flagging it and objecting at this point based on what we know the anticipated evidence to be. So I don't know if a proffer is necessary at this point to outline what exactly expects Dr. Condie to say and how that differs from the opinions of the other experts.
It seems to me that the main objection may lay in regards to Dr. Spinelli then, whether or not, and depends on what her testimony is and how that overlaps with whatever Dr. Condie's is at this point.
If I may, Judge.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you recognize that we have not yet put on a document. I don't have to accept their evidence. I don't have to accept their doctors. Our doctors, this is our first doctor, who is a very qualified psychopharmacologist. I expect to elicit from him the treatment, very briefly, that she received and the medications that she was on and the effect of these medications as it relates to her condition when she was seeking medical help. That's it. I'm not going to get into criminal responsibility with him. I'm not going to get into lack of criminal responsibility with him. Basically, psychopharmacology and the treatment that she received. He's not going to, be criticizing what Gelada did, what Tufts did. He's just going to detail her condition according to the medical records and the medications that were provided. I am well aware and very experienced in trying jury cases and know when you lose the jury. I know when you lose. I'm not going to have Dr. Zeisel and I'm not going to have Meg Spinelli wax eloquently for hours and bore the jury to death. I'm going to get right to the chase. Dr. Spinelli is a well-qualified doctor on the issues of postpartum psychosis and postpartum depression and treating a pregnant woman and or a postpartum perinatal client or patient. Dr. Zeisel is a general psychologist and will be discussing a number of issues, as you're well aware, because he's been involved with Lindsay for literally 3 years, 46 times he's seen her or something like that. So I'm going to focus their testimony on those fields. I don't think it's necessary for us to have Dr. Condie get up here on a voir dire so that they can hear what he's going to testify to. I'm not going to have him rambling or going off the script. He signed an affidavit, which is even, I think, better than a medical report, that you usually get. So they have plenty to cross-examine it from.
All right. And the intention is not to ask the question regarding standard of care. All right.
Now I've been deleted because they
All right.
removed. Yep.
All right. So over the Commonwealth's objection, I'm going to allow at this point Dr. Condie's testimony in line with the affidavit, basically in line with that affidavit, with the holding he's not to testify as to the standard of care opinion as he had the original statement.
Can I just tell him that to make sure?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so it appears they didn't work out Lamposada's.
So with that, counsel, we ready for the jury?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. God bless you.
God bless. Dr. Ed Moskowitz, Julie, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Always a pleasure to have Julie Moskowitz in the chat.
All right, waiting for veteran.
I'm surprised they do the close-up like that.
Sure, yeah.
Leave that camera fixed like that. Usually they frown upon that. I just
Counsel can hear you and tell us your name and spell your last name.
My name is Donald Condie, Condie.
And tell us, what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a child, adolescent, and adult clinical and forensic psychiatrist.
And can you tell us your background as to where you went to school and when you got your medical degree and things of that nature?
I graduated from Tulane University, then spent some time in graduate school at the University of New Orleans, then went to medical school at Louisiana State University in New Orleans. And then I came to Boston to the Massachusetts Mental Health Center to train in psychiatry.
And where is that?
The Massachusetts Mental Health Center was at 74 Fenwood Road. That building has been demolished and now they're at 75 Fenwood Road in Boston.
I was referring to more like, is that affiliated with any particular medical schools?
Yes.
What is it?
Harvard.
And what years were you working at the Mass Mental Health Center affiliated with Harvard?
I started there after medical school. I graduated in 1982 from medical school, was an intern in 1982 to 83. That was a Harvard affiliated internship. And then residency was 83 to 85 for adult training, 2 years. Then 85 to 87, which is 2 years of training for child and adolescent. Then I did a forensic fellowship, also at the Mass Mental Health Center. And during that year, I spent some time at Harvard Law School as a visiting fellow.
And do you have, or did you have any board certifications that you can tell us about?
I'm board certified in adult and child and adolescent psychiatry.
Do you have a particular focus also on medications that are utilized in the course of psychiatry?
Yes, I've spent a great deal of my career treating people in the state system with psychotic disorders and mood disorders.
Tell us a little bit about that. Was there one particular period of time that you worked with literally more than 100 people that had serious psychotic disorders?
Well, the Massachusetts Mental Health Center was a state inpatient facility. So we had many people with either no insurance or mass health insurance. Probably at least half of the patients at any given time would have had psychosis or a major depressive disorder.
Have you, in the course of your career, following through on psychosis or a major depressive disorder, had any focus or treatment on women that are either pregnant or have had little babies and they are looking for help in the postpartum period?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, starting in my residency, so in 1983, we had several patients at the Massachusetts Mental Health Center who were pregnant and were also sometimes afflicted with psychosis. We also had people who had delivered a child, but were then hospitalized, sometimes with a psychotic depression or sometimes with simply suicidal ideation. And I've encountered that very frequently since then. I was for 14 years the chief medical officer of VinFen, which is a very large agency with contracts from the Department of Mental Health and the Department of Mental Retardation in Massachusetts and in Connecticut. We ran about 350 group homes, about 10 people per home, so maybe 3,500 patients. We frequently had people who were pregnant and were taking medications for psychosis. Sometimes after delivery, the severity of their psychosis would increase. So I'm fairly familiar with that phenomenon.
Doctor, how many years have you actually been practicing now as a physician?
I've been a licensed physician in Massachusetts since 1983.
So what's that? 83, 90, 2000, 2026? Okay, about 40 years.
A little more than 40 years.
Okay. From 1990 through 2012, were you affiliated with forensic child psychiatry with Mass General Hospital?
Yes.
And were you also affiliated through 2013 with Mass General on forensic case consults in this field?
Yes.
All right. I'm asking, have you had occasion to make a number of presentations? We don't have to go through them, but did you make a number of presentations and working as a lecturer for various medical schools, law schools, things like that?
Yes. Well, during the time that I was at Mass Mental Health Center, I was a fellow at Harvard Medical School.
What does that mean to be a fellow?
It means you're a resident in a training program and you're teaching Harvard medical students things about the specialty in which you happen to be practicing.
And what was the specialty that you were a fellow lecturing Harvard medical students about?
First, it was general psychiatry, then it was child and adolescent psychiatry, and then it was forensic psychiatry.
You also have had various scientific or medical publications that you have been authored on a number of occasions, articles, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I'd offer his CV if I could, just if, as an exhibit, if that's accepted.
Commonwealth? Okay, that may be admitted.
Thank you. Now, doctor, if you can tell me, do you know, not necessarily personally, but do you know of Lindsay Clancy?
I know about the case in general, but I don't know anyone personally.
Now, you have never met her, is that correct?
That's correct.
You've never talked to her, right?
Never have.
You've never evaluated her for what's called criminal responsibility, is that correct?
That's correct. I have not.
I consulted with you for purposes of psychopharmacology and issues like that on this case, is that right?
Yes.
Fair to say that we've had a number of conversations in the evening, off hours, about various medications administered to women that are pregnant or postpartum. Is that right?
Yes.
Excuse me. Can you tell the jury, in a summary, what documentation, medical records, police reports, things of that nature on this case that you've had a chance to review?
Well, I've reviewed the records of Rebecca Gelada, the nurse practitioner, Dr. Jennifer Tufts, the psychiatrist that saw Miss Clancy. I've reviewed the Brigham and Women's Hospital records and the women and infants records. I've reviewed the McLean records. And I might be leaving something out.
You know about her background as far as her employment as a labor and delivery nurse and her family, her 3 children and her husband that she was married, right?
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Okay. So if I could, doctor, direct your attention to, let's say, the fall of 2022, end of September. Can you tell us what Lindsay's status was as far as maternity leave with work and any complaints that she had at that time regarding her mental state?
From my, excuse me. Could I get some water?
We'll get some on the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry, my allergies are kicking up. So from my review of the records, which would start with Dr. Tufts' records, my understanding is that Ms. Clancy was planning to go back to work as a labor and delivery nurse at Mass General. She worked, I believe, the 12 midnight to 12 a.m. shift. And she began to experience, as she had to some extent after her first 2 deliveries, some postpartum anxiety, and consulted Dr. Tufts at that time.
Now, after she had her 3rd child, Callan, was she in, would you strike that? It's fair to say she was in treatment with Dr. Tufts as a treating physician?
Yes.
Okay. And looking at your affidavit, I believe in paragraph 9, did you determine from looking at the medical records as to the time frame that Lindsay treated with Dr. Tufts?
Yes.
And what was that?
She started in the middle of September 2022. And I'm sure that her last appointment was January 23rd, 2023.
Now, did you have a chance to review Dr. Tufts' medical records?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe them for us, please?
They are somewhat sparse, and there are many check boxes in the records, but not a great deal of sentences that describe what was done during sessions.
Were you aware that the sessions that Dr. Tufts conducted with Lindsay from September, the end of September, up through January 23rd were all televised on a computer?
Yes, they were all video.
Do you recall the medications that Dr. Tufts prescribed Lindsay?
I believe the first medication she started was Zoloft, 25 milligrams.
And what is that? Tell us what Zoloft is. What
Zoloft
effect does it have on a person?
I'm sorry?
What effect does that have on a person?
Well, Zoloft is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is a type of antidepressant that started being used around 1988, I believe. Prozac was the first one. Zoloft was the second. When it works to be helpful, it combats both anxiety and depressive symptoms that people might have. It also has, in some people, an effect of causing a feeling of jitteriness and increasing anxiety. So it's something that does have some potential side effects as well as beneficial effects.
And when she was prescribed the original 25 milligrams of Zoloft, did she in fact take that, or did she defer on taking that?
My recollection of the records is that she had it prescribed, picked it up, but did not take it for at least a couple of weeks because she did not wish to take medication. She was, I believe, still breastfeeding at that time. There are medications, and Zoloft would be one that would likely appear to some extent in the breast milk.
Okay, so because she was worried about that, she held off on that, but ultimately did take the prescription from Dr. Tufts. Is that right?
The records indicate that she did eventually start taking the 25 milligrams.
Sorry. Does it indicate when she started taking them after that little hiatus?
To be exact, I'd have to look at the records, but I believe it was at the end of September.
And was that dosage increased at some point?
It increased from 25 milligrams to 15 milligrams.
And what happened when Lindsay took the 50 milligrams of Zoloft prescribed by Dr. Tufts?
The records indicate that she had a rather rapid series of difficulties, that she had insomnia for, I believe the records say 48 hours, couldn't sleep. It's something that would be called activation that these medications can cause in some people who are more susceptible.
Yeah. By mid-October, after she began taking the Zoloft, would you agree that the records indicate a week after starting the medication and increasing the dose, she reported in October to Dr. Tufts, what you're relating is that she felt, how did she describe it to Dr. Tufts? If you could, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, she felt that she talked about being numb. She talked about not being herself. She talked about feeling worse, not better. Antidepressants usually take at least 2 to 3 and frequently 4 to 6 weeks to have useful effects, but sometimes side effects can happen very quickly.
Did she also indicate, looking at your affidavit, that she was crying all day, she was experiencing mental fog, terrified to start something new, anxiety had gotten much worse? Did she tell that to Dr. Tufts at that time at the end of October?
Yes, I do recall those things being in the record.
All right, and following through again on your affidavit, was there further explanation from Lindsay's recitation of symptomology to Dr. Tufts? Did she further state about racing thoughts, paranoia? What did she say? Looking at your report, look at your affidavit, if that helps you refresh your memory.
I actually don't have the affidavit with me at the moment. I do have some of the records, but
well, let me just approach you then and give you your affidavit, paragraph 13, and see if that refreshes your memory.
Thank
Ed,
you.
not a really sharp witness here, huh?
Well, he's very monotone and dry. This type of testimony tends to cause
Yes.
jurors to
What
fall
did she
asleep.
say to Dr. Tufts?
She reported, Dr. Tufts reported that Lindsay's psychiatric condition was generally deteriorating. That's a checkbox on one of the forms that her records.
What did Lindsay say her
Right.
symptoms were at that point?
That she was having the racing thoughts, and that she was also feeling, as I said, not like herself. That her depression was worse than it had been. I believe that's also around the time that Dr. Tufts thought of trying a medication called Zolresso.
Zolresso.
Yes.
And what is that? Is that you need that by way of injection?
Yes, Zolresso is no longer marketed. It wasn't a particularly successful medication.
Just answer the questions.
It requires a 60-hour continuous IV infusion.
In a hospital setting or in a medical setting?
You have to be medically monitored. It doesn't necessarily need to be a hospital, but those are not necessarily things that can be done outside of a hospital.
But she didn't do the Zolresso though, right?
She did not. It also costs $34,000 just for the medication, not for the monitoring.
Okay. What's the next thing that happened with Dr. Tufts and Lindsay Clancy, sir?
Well, if I look at my affidavit, when she stopped taking the medication, the Zoloft, she now felt better as she had felt before he took the Zoloft, but she was less anxious.
What was the next medication?
She was put on Benadryl and had some difficulty sleeping, but also was worried that night because her son was coughing, and she worried a great deal about the children's health.
And that would be something that would also intrude on her sleep, worrying about her children?
Yes.
Okay. What other symptomology traveling through November into December did she relate to Dr. Tufts, according to your review of the medical records?
Well, she talked about things like dizziness, feeling sedated in the morning when she woke up, if she got any sleep at all. And I think she used the term brain fog at times. These are sometimes symptoms that people who are experiencing postpartum depression frequently complain about. She continued to complain about anxiety.
Well, it's not what they're complaining about, it's what they're living, right?
It is a very unpleasant experience, yes.
And continuing on through November, at some point did she leave or stop with Tufts and go to another healthcare provider by way of either emergency room initially and then another healthcare provider?
Yes.
Who was that?
She started treatment with Rebecca Gelada, a nurse practitioner at South Shore Perinatal Program.
Now, one of the things that was apparent that we, if you recall, I believe that she also had initially been referred there by a friend of the family. Is that right? To that perinatal clinic?
Yes, my understanding from the records is that Miss Clancy's mother-in-law was friendly with a nurse practitioner who practiced in the perinatal program, and I believe it actually started the perinatal program.
Yes, and ultimately, or in the beginning, she was treated by a Julie Paul. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you remember looking at the medical records and that on November 27th of 2022, the nurse practitioner Julie Paul reported that Lindsay stated that she was disassociated. She was not in touch with reality. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And what is that a symptomology? Is that a symptom of psychosis, to be disassociated and not in touch with reality?
It certainly can be. Dissociation can mean that people feel like things around them are not real.
Right. And that's pretty serious feeling to have, right?
It is.
And that's pretty common, unfortunately, with women that have postpartum psychosis, right?
It certainly can be, yes.
And what are the other symptomologies of postpartum psychosis, sir?
Well, psychosis in general just means a lack of understanding of what's real as opposed to what is not. So a person with psychosis can have delusions, which are fixed false beliefs. They could believe that, for example, they have been told by God to do something. They can also have hallucinations at times.
What kind of hallucinations?
Most people have auditory hallucinations, not visual hallucinations.
Hearing. Is that correct? Auditory is hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to what?
As opposed to visual hallucinations.
Visual. And in the course of reviewing the medical records, did you see that, in fact, that Lindsay had auditory, no visual hallucinations, but auditory voices?
At times, she reported that she had heard a voice, yes.
Okay. Do you recall that as the time went by that she, in December, do you remember seeing in the medical records that she was relating that she was heavy, that she couldn't get out of bed, that she couldn't bathe, that she couldn't react, she couldn't love, she couldn't feel? Do you remember any of that from looking at the medical records?
Yes, those are all phrases that I recall from the medical records.
They were all coming from her, right?
Yes.
To the doctors.
Yes.
That would be Dr. Tufts and then Dr. Gelada. Is that right?
Nurse Gelada.
Sorry, nurse practitioner Gelada. Do you recall, sir, that nurse practitioner Gelada prescribed additional medications to Lindsay during that period of time from November through December?
Yes.
Can you tell us what they were?
I'd have to look to be sure, but I believe she continued the Benadryl at times. And there was some talk about the use of Buspar, but I believe that was Dr. Tufts.
About the what? I'm sorry.
I said, I'm sorry.
What was the word you just used?
Oh, sorry. Buspar, which is the brand name for Buspirone, which is an anti-anxiety medication.
Right. How about Remeron? Was there ever a prescription for Remeron?
Remeron is a different kind of antidepressant, which helps people sleep a little bit and also sometimes helps their appetite. Yes, that was another.
The answer is yes, she was prescribed Remeron?
Yes, she was.
And that's an antidepressant?
It is.
Is that mocking or similar to, but not exactly the same as the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, Zoloft, Prozac, things of that nature, right?
It's similar in the sense that it has an antidepressant effect. It has some effect on serotonin. It has some effect on the adrenal, adrenergic system as well.
The what?
The adrenergic system. Adrenaline is a neurotransmitter. It's also a hormone that circulates if you are suddenly scared or something like that, you get a surge of adrenaline. So if you were in a near-miss car accident, you might find yourself shaking because adrenaline will flood into your system from the adrenal glands. But it's also a neurotransmitter, and mirtazapine has some effect on that.
You said mirtazapine, is that the same as Remeron?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
So it's two different names, generic and not generic.
Mirtazapine is the generic name, and I was taught to use generic names, but
Okay.
yes, Remeron is.
Around this time, Lindsay has been prescribed the Prozac, she had been prescribed the Remeron, she had been prescribed the Benadryl, she had been prescribed other medications very similar to the SSRIs. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and does the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that's fancy word, what does it mean? Isn't that serotonin in your brain? Doesn't it block or in some fashion affect your brain?
It's a little complicated to explain, but serotonin.
Tell the jury what serotonin means and what happens when you take an SSRI, please.
Okay, serotonin in this sense is a neurotransmitter. The brain is a relatively complicated place. It has about 86 billion nerve cells. They've got thousands of connections to each other, but they're not like the wires in your house where you put two pieces of wire together, twist the copper, and then put a nut on that. Nerves don't touch. They go close to each other, but there's a space between them, and that's called the synaptic cleft. One nerve secretes a neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft, and it moves over to the next nerve in line where there's a receptor. Serotonin does that in the synaptic cleft, but it's also taken back up by the nerve that secreted it so it's reuptaked. So a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor slows down the reuptake of serotonin, prolonging its activity in the synaptic cleft, which causes the next nerve in line to be activated. I'm sorry that it's so complicated.
It didn't need to be. All you need to say is that it slows down the process.
Is doing, and that's what a reuptake
When a woman
inhibitor
is
does.
pregnant or has just had a baby,
Bingo.
what effect, for example, hormones have when a person has a baby? I know two guys, but I mean, do you know what happens when a woman has a baby?
I've been at quite a few deliveries, yes.
Okay.
The fact is that many hormones increase. So progesterone is a hormone that many people have heard of. It's a component of birth control pills because it promotes gestation. So progesterone in a birth control pill fools the body into thinking it's pregnant, which means it doesn't, the woman doesn't produce eggs that could be fertilized. And that's the way the birth control pill works. or some of them do. Progesterone goes down very quickly after birth, as do many other hormones that are going up and then down after birth.
So if the hormones go up, and if there's an overload, if you will, might be the wrong word, of hormones, what effect does that have on the human body? What effect does that have on a woman who's just had a baby?
Well, it's quite complicated.
Just tell us basically what your feeling is. That they want to get into it, they can ask, but what effect does it have on a woman that has a baby?
Well, one of the other hormones that goes up is prolactin. So after the woman gives birth, prolactin promotes lactation, and it's a hormone that increases so that the mother can then breastfeed. These hormones are also seen in all mammals that feed their young through producing milk. So it's a very common mammalian thing to do. But other kinds of things can happen to...
Did you say males or mammals?
Mammals.
Okay, because mammals don't breastfeed, right?
I'm sure they don't, yes.
Okay, so as far as the hormone, again, I would ask, when a woman has a baby and the placenta, I think I pronounced that right, is through the birth, all of a sudden, what happens? It stops that massive influx of hormones, or it increases that influx of hormones?
Well, some hormones go up, like prolactin, and some hormones go down very quickly.
What effect does that have in your experience and your education and your research on women that have a baby? What effect does that have on them?
Well, many women experience postpartum blues.
What is postpartum blues?
It's a feeling of...
Thing.
I'm sorry?
Sounds like a 50s thing. What's postpartum blues?
It's a feeling of low energy and being sad, not as serious or usually as long as postpartum depression.
What is postpartum depression? Is that the next level?
It's a more serious condition where the woman may feel that she can't connect to the baby, that she feels isolated, she has no energy, she may also have insomnia.
So, for example, if a woman is unable to sleep, feels as though she's losing a contact or connection with her infant, is stressing about not having that contact with her infant, feels that she's unable to emote or feel love or any emotions and can't relate to people, and also is out of reality, are those, or disassociative state, are those, in your opinion, symptoms of postpartum depression and or leading to postpartum psychosis?
Yes, they are.
And Lindsay had those symptoms, didn't she?
She reported all those symptoms, yes.
Doctor, when a doctor like Tufts is meeting with a person and checking the boxes, can that doctor give a blood test to the patient?
Certainly.
Is that important in your opinion, that a doctor give a patient, especially a woman who's coming to them for help with these symptoms, give them a blood test?
Yes.
Tiptoeing on this line now.
I don't know what blood tests are, but just tell me. I mean, is that a simple test? Is it a complicated test?
It's fairly simple to have blood drawn, and there are many tests that are relevant, particularly after a woman has given birth.
Why?
Well, some women become anemic. Depends on how much blood loss might have occurred during birth, but there's usually some blood loss. So checking hemoglobin levels is important. The thyroid can be affected by delivery of the baby. And some women in the postpartum period develop inflammation of the thyroid. The thyroid is a very important gland that regulates many parts of the body.
Is that why many times when a competent psychiatrist is treating a patient that is postpartum after having a baby, that they might run, I may be wrong saying it, but a thyroid test?
They would do most commonly two different kinds of thyroid tests. They would test for thyroid stimulating hormone, which goes up when the thyroid hormones that also can be tested for actually go down. So thyroid stimulating hormone is telling the body, make more thyroid hormone because it's not enough in the circulation.
Did Tufts ever use a blood test at all in her treatment?
No, she did not.
Did Tufts ever check the thyroid levels of Lindsay Clancy at all during her treatment?
No, she did not.
How about Gelada? Did they test any of those things?
No, Nurse Gelada did not do blood testing either.
Now, you made reference, sir, to postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. You're familiar with the DSM, what it's referred to as DSM?
5TR.
Domestic Statistical Manual on Mental Disorders. 5, you said TR, that would be right there, meaning sexual division.
Correct.
All right. And I'm approaching you with this and asking, you see that section there?
Yes.
And what is that section?
The bipolar and related disorder section.
What is bipolar disorder? What does that mean?
Bipolar is the newer name for what used to be called manic depressive illness. It describes an illness where people's moods go up, which is the manic phase, and then go down, which is the depressed phase. There are different categories of bipolar disorder. Bipolar 1 is the most serious. Bipolar 2 disorder also has similar fluctuations of mood, but in both cases of bipolar disorder, most people spend more time being depressed than they do being manic.
Now, just tell me, what does manic mean? What does that actually mean?
They feel usually euphoric, that they don't have.
They're up.
You're really up.
Okay.
You're extremely optimistic. You might spend a lot of money foolishly, but you wouldn't worry about that because certainly you're going to win the lottery. You can just feel it. So there can be psychotic thoughts along with bipolar mania, unreasonable expectations. Like I said, that you're destined to win the lottery, or in serious cases, you can believe that God is speaking to you and has appointed you to do some special thing in life.
How about excessive cleaning and, let's say, divesting oneself of personal property, cleaning garages, things of that nature?
There was talk in the records of an episode where Miss Clancy and her husband cleaned out the garage, but it was difficult to tell from the records whether or not that represented what we would call a hypomanic episode.
Exercise. Was there a lot of references to exercise?
There were a lot of references to exercise. And exercise can be a very useful thing.
Sure, that's one of the things that a woman in postpartum may very well be prescribed to do by a doctor like, or a nurse practitioner like Gelada, right?
I believe that nurse practitioner Julie Paul recommended a long run at one point.
So there's nothing wrong with a woman going to, let's say, Kingsbury or whatever it is, or taking her kids to the local gym with a swimming pool and trying to get some exercise in the postpartum stage. That's something you wouldn't hold against her.
No.
Okay. Now, how about are you aware that within a very short period of time after she had baby Callan, that she actually ran a road race?
Yes.
Is that indicative of a person that's kind of ramped up and doing these things you're talking about?
It's unusual to decide to run so soon after delivering a baby. I believe that she ran on the day that she might have delivered her last child, Callan.
That's correct. So during the month of December, in your review of the records, would you agree that her symptoms that she has related to the doctors that were there to help her, they basically increased, did they not?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
They
quite
increased.
Yes.
And are you aware that then she went somewhere voluntarily in December?
Yes.
Where?
She went to the Mass General Emergency Room on, I believe that was in December. She had gone to the South Shore Emergency Room previously.
And did you, in the records, see that in fact she had gone to Women and Infants program in Rhode Island for a day?
Yes.
And are you familiar with that particular establishment? Is that supposedly helps pregnant women?
Yes, I reviewed those records as well.
And do you know why she was discharged after a day?
The records stated that they thought that she was having complications from medications more than she was suffering from postpartum issues, and therefore was not a good candidate for their program.
And this was after getting there at 8 in the morning and leaving there around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And the records indicate, if you read them, that during that period of time, there were little group discussions and coloring sessions and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
You know that there are suicide hotlines that people are told to call, right?
Yes.
Especially if a woman is in postpartum and is experiencing these difficulties and is describing the symptomology and on all these medications, that if you feel like you're going to kill yourself, you're supposed to call a telephone number, right?
Well, it wouldn't be the advice I would give, but that was some advice that was given, yes.
And did she call, to your knowledge, from reviewing the records, the telephone?
He called the Aspire hotline, I believe, on 2 occasions.
And was she given any help by the Aspire hotline?
I believe the records say that she was told by Aspire that since she did not have a suicide plan, she did not require what's called a higher level of care, meaning an inpatient admission.
So she basically had been to Nurse Gelada. She had contacted Aspire on 2 occasions. She went to Rhode Island Hospital on a recommendation the day after she was recommended to go there, and left after not being accepted. After calling the suicide hotlines, things got to the point where she and her husband went to an emergency room. Is that right?
Yes.
And did they get treatment did she get treatment at the emergency room?
I believe the first time that she went to the Mass General Emergency Room, they recommended that she consider an admission at McLean, but she and her husband decided that they did not want her to go inpatient at that time.
How about the next time she went to the emergency room?
The next time she went to the emergency room, which was not very long after, he was admitted to McLean.
McLean Hospital, and that would be that would be the locked wards for a period of about 4 days, correct?
Yes.
In reference to the bipolar disorder that we touched upon, sir, is that something that's a consideration when you're treating as a psychiatrist a woman who's coming to you for help and expressing concerns about the symptoms that we've talked about?
Yes.
Why?
Well, some people with bipolar disorder, especially given the fact that depression is a prominent symptom in bipolar disorder, become suicidal and can even commit suicide. So that's a very serious possibility that has to be considered.
Did any of the nurse practitioners consider that as a possible diagnosis?
The records indicate that Ms. Clancy was frequently asked if she had a plan to kill herself, even after she reported having what was called passive suicidal ideation. But it was reported very, very frequently in the records.
And in reference to her treatment with nurse practitioner Gelada, did, to your knowledge, nurse practitioner Gelada consider as a secondary diagnosis or a working diagnosis the possibility of bipolar disorder?
Yes.
Was anything followed through on that?
I believe she discussed the possibility of a mood stabilizer, but I believe that she then ended up using Seroquel or quetiapine, which is
that's Seroquel and quetiapine with a Q, right?
I'm sorry?
Seroquel and quetiapine with a Q.
Quetiapine with a Q, yes.
Using the two words again. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Seroquel is the brand name. Quetiapine is the generic name.
All right. And did she, meaning Lindsay, to your knowledge in the medical records dealing with these providers, complain about the effect that Seroquel had on her?
Yes.
And what did she say? What were the symptoms and what did she feel?
Well, she often felt spacey, as if she was not her normal self. She felt, it's fairly commonly reported that she felt hungover in the morning because these medicines, that particular medicine does make people somewhat sleepy. I believe the beginning doses were described as a sleeping dose, which is a very low dose of the medication that does, in fact, help sleep to some extent.
Was the Seroquel ultimately increased to 400 milligrams a day, 200 milligrams a day? You recall that?
Yes, it started at 25 and...
It was bumped up pretty significantly, wasn't it?
Yes, 400 is a lot more than 25.
And she was complaining about the effect of the Seroquel, is that correct?
She was.
And she was complaining about the fact that she couldn't sleep. All those symptoms that we went through continued on through the month of December. After McLean, she went there for the New Year's period. I know, I'm almost there. She went to the McLean for treatment and still complained of these symptoms. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did the symptoms ever resolve themselves for Lindsay in January, if you know?
There were times when she appeared to be a little less distressed, but the symptoms were never completely resolved, no.
And did you know that she went to see Dr. Jennifer Tufts in January 9th and that she was prescribed diazepam?
Yes.
And then on the 12th, she was prescribed trazodone, 150 milligrams by Dr. Tufts.
Yes.
January 16th, 2 milligrams of diazepam by Dr. Tufts. January 16th, the same day, 10 milligrams of amitriptyline by Dr. Tufts.
Yes.
What is amitriptyline?
Amitriptyline is one of the older types of antidepressants. It's what's called a tricyclic antidepressant. It has more side effects, but one of the useful side effects in some cases is that it makes people sleepy.
Did it help her sleep?
Not really.
Now, in reference to the DSM, out of that revision, you agree with me that they have DSM-1, DSM-2, revised, rebooted, reconsidered, DSM-3, all the way up to DSM-5 text revision, right?
Correct.
And consisting of over 1,000 pages, right?
Yes.
Is this like considered, some people say, the Bible of psychiatry, or is it like a cookbook?
I would call it a dictionary. It's a list of definitions.
If I looked under P in this dictionary, would it contain anything about postpartum psychosis for a woman?
There is one mention on page 148.
That's it.
That's it.
The rest of the world, they don't care about the DSM. They have some other
Yes.
information, right? What is that called?
The World Health Organization publishes something called the International Classification of Disease, which is now in its 11th edition. It lists postpartum psychosis as a separate entity. And that's the one that insurance companies use for billing purposes.
Right, not this.
Correct.
You familiar, sir, with the way other countries treat pregnant women in postpartum condition when they see, let me finish, when they see a doctor for medical treatment? Yes or no?
Objection.
All right, just allow that question, then we'll.
Yes.
And how does that differ from the United States of America?
Objection.
Sustained.
Go ahead.
He crossed the line that he said he wasn't going to do to the judge.
All right. Commonwealth?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
You spent some time when you first got to the stand going over your qualifications, and I think counsel now has admitted your curriculum vitae into evidence, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Your curriculum vitae
Yes.
is you went through that with counsel. You recall that?
Yes.
And fair to say, the majority of the entries in your experience and your presentations and your teaching and fellowships, most of which revolve around child and adolescent psychiatry, correct?
I wouldn't say the majority.
Well, where in your CV does it say that you worked with postpartum women?
It doesn't say that specifically.
Okay, so your testimony is that back in 1983 when you were at the Massachusetts, mental health center, you worked with the postpartum women, is that correct?
There were patients who had either were pregnant while they were there or delivered and were hospitalized after that, yes.
Okay. And your involvement in this case with counsel, with defense counsel, wasn't directly that he reached out to you, was it? It was that you provided some information as it pertains to a civil lawsuit that's pending.
That's correct.
Okay. And so this affidavit that counsel's been referring to that you drafted, you've revised it for these proceedings, but fair to say,
That's my dog, Linus.
Of records that didn't include anything related to this criminal case, meaning no police reports, interviews, photos from the scene. Is that fair to say?
No police reports, no photos from the scene.
So the majority of what you reviewed pertained to medical records, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you cite too in your affidavit a New Yorker article for facts.
Yes.
That's where you got most of your facts, is from a New Yorker article.
No, I also spoke to Mr. Clancy.
You spoke to Mr. Clancy?
Yes.
Is that in your affidavit?
It appears Linus does not like her voice.
Can you point to a paragraph where you indicate that you got a report directly from Mr. Clancy?
Ed, is this a HIPAA violation?
I don't know if it's in the affidavit.
Okay.
But
I'm not
Ed,
sure.
is this a HIPAA violation?
for
I'm not sure.
90 to 100 minutes.
Maybe I should shut it off.
Now, in relation to kind of going through the medical treatment, you indicate that the defendant reported that she was hesitant about taking medications. Do you recall that in paragraph 11?
Yes.
But you're aware that she sought out a psychiatrist, not a therapist, not a psychotherapist or a psychologist. She sought a psychiatrist as her first contact in the postpartum period, correct?
Correct.
And psychiatrists presumably prescribe medications and don't necessarily offer psychotherapy, do they?
Well, all psychiatrists are trained to do psychotherapy to some extent, at least. But yes, they can also prescribe medication.
And through the records, you learned that the defendant did have reactions to low dose of Zoloft. And your testimony is that a blood test would have helped. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
So a blood test that's about 4 or 5 months postpartum, how is that going to help prescribers?
Well, the blood test I was thinking of was you could do a level of the antidepressant in her blood, and that would tell you whether it was average, expected given the dose, or too high or too low.
And that would yield results if a person's only been taking medication for less than a week?
Yes.
But you indicate that over a period of 4 to 6 weeks is when you would expect to see a medication start to take effect, correct?
It sometimes takes that long, yes.
Now, you also spoke a little bit about Zulresso. You're aware from reviewing the records of Jennifer Tufts that she researched Zulresso and spoke about Zulresso, but never made a recommendation to the defendant that she do that injection.
Yes.
You also described that by November 21st, that the defendant was experiencing suggesting symptoms of mania, like racing thoughts. But in fact, the criteria is not just racing thoughts, it's racing thoughts, pressured speech, correct?
There are a number of criteria that are listed, but racing thoughts is one of them, yes.
Okay.
And
you also list, or you identify in your affidavit, extreme insomnia, but for mania, it's not just insomnia, it's that there's insomnia with a decreased need for sleep, correct?
it can be decreased feeling that you need to sleep even if you didn't sleep for several days. But it's also true that some people feel very tired. It's not just one or the other.
You're aware that the defendant denied a decreased need for sleep around that time period in November from the records, aren't you?
In that period, yes.
You also indicated that in reviewing records pertaining to, I think you noted Jennifer Tufts, that her notes were a series of the record was a series of check boxes, right? That was your testimony?
There are a few sentences, but there are mostly check boxes, yes.
And fair to say, the way in which those notes are created, there are several areas in which notes are placed at different points in those records.
There are notes at certain places, yes.
And those notes are reflective of statements that the defendant was making about her mood and how she was feeling and symptoms, correct?
Yes.
Those are all important things for a treating psychiatrist to consider when they're considering a patient's overall presentation. Is that fair to say?
Yes, fair to say.
Now, you also referenced in your affidavit that the defendant had reported that she had these increased symptoms with Zoloft and didn't sleep for 48 hours after increasing the dose. Remember that in the record?
Yes, from 25 to 50.
And you didn't review any police reports to identify that there were only 7 pills missing from that bottle of sertraline, did you?
I did not review a police report, no.
So if a person takes 7 pills over 1 week period at 25 milligrams, how do they increase the dose without more pills missing from the bottle?
Well, I believe if you took 3 or 4 pills for a few days of 25, then you still would have enough pills to take 2 25s and increase the dose to 50.
Right. But if a prescription reads that if 30 are filled and only 7 are missing from the pill bottle when it's located months later, then if you've taken 7 pills, you've taken 1 pill each day, correct?
Not necessarily. I believe that she stopped taking the medication rather quickly. And I'm not sure which pill bottle you're discussing because, as you said, I didn't review a police report.
Okay.
That's a big assumption. She could take more than 1 pill a day.
Now, you're aware that on December 15th, that the defendant and her husband reported that she was having persistent intrusive thoughts that day, correct?
Yes.
And that's the day she first presented to Mass General Hospital.
Yes.
And you're aware that Mass General Hospital is directly affiliated with McLean Hospital, right?
They are affiliated, yes.
And that she was advised to go to the inpatient program and she chose not to go.
Yes.
From reviewing the records, did you see how Letitia Dukes, a social worker or a mental health worker, from the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health Clinic had previously had discussions with the defendant about going to women and infants before her presentation to the Mass General ER on December 15th?
Yes.
And she didn't, in fact, go to that program until December 20th. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, you also mentioned in your review of the medications, lamotrigine. You recall that?
Yes.
And that was a medication that was prescribed to the defendant in December of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You're aware that she never took lamotrigine?
I believe that's what she said, yes.
Now, you also were asked, or you spoke about Seroquel. So you're familiar with the prescriptions or what was prescribed of the Seroquel over the period of time from November 30th through early December, correct?
Yes.
You've reviewed that. And so I think you testified on direct examination that the initial dose was a low dose, 25 milligrams.
Correct.
And you're familiar, that is a fairly common dosage, a low dose to prescribe to address some sleep issues.
It is, yes.
And you're aware that for people who are suspected or have bipolar disorder, that the levels of prescribed are generally much higher than 25 milligrams, right?
Yes, they would be.
They could range anywhere from 100 milligrams to up to, what is the range, if you know?
It would go up to 800 milligrams.
And so in this circumstance, you're aware that Rebecca Gelada had suspicions about bipolar disorder, right?
She mentions it as a distinct possibility, yes.
And without relief, she recommends titrating or going up on the Seroquel over a period of time, right?
Yes.
And you settled on a number of 400, but you know from the records that that was the goal, to titrate up to 400 milligrams. Do you know if the defendant ever took 400 milligrams?
I do not.
And you're also aware that once the defendant started reporting having symptoms and concerns about the Seroquel, that she had requested to taper off the Seroquel, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that prior to her presentation at McLean Hospital, that Rebecca Gelada actually did send in a prescription that would allow for her to taper down.
Yes.
And when the defendant was admitted to McLean Hospital on January 1st, she was already on a taper plan, meaning she had gone back down to approximately 100 milligrams per night.
I believe she was, yes.
And that at McLean, they further immediately started to reduce the dosage with each night.
I believe that was the plan at McLean, yes.
So the first night she was there, she went down to 75 milligrams, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And then by the time she was discharged, she was at 0.
Yes, and they were talking about the amitriptyline.
Well, did she leave McLean Hospital with a prescription for amitriptyline?
I don't know if she left with a prescription, but it was discussed in the records that they recommended that.
And as of January 12th of 2023, you're aware that the only active prescriptions for the defendant were for amitriptyline, right?
Yes.
And Valium as needed and Trazodone.
That sounds correct, yes.
So throughout the course of your review of the records and all of the different medications that she was on from October through January, she wasn't on all the medications at the same time, correct?
No, not at the same time.
And it's fair to say she was only on maybe 3 medications at one time.
3, there might have been 4 at one point, but yes.
And she had expressed particular medications that she wished to return to, like Ativan at some point, correct?
She was quite ambivalent about Ativan and talked a great deal in the records about being worried that she was addicted to it.
But Ativan tended to work for her, correct?
It made her feel less anxious. Yes.
And she actually described that at certain points to the providers that when she felt intrusive thoughts or she had a bad experience, that she took the Ativan and the thoughts were gone. Didn't she not?
I'm not sure that she said the intrusive thoughts were gone, but she would feel less anxious when she took it.
And as far as your conversations about hallucinations and auditory hallucinations, you indicated that at some point, or at points, I think was your testimony, that the defendant did hear a voice. But you're aware that she never reported to Jennifer Tufts that she heard a voice.
She did not.
She never reported to Rebecca Gelada that she heard a voice, did she?
She did not.
She never reported to Letitia Dukes that she heard a voice.
She did not.
And the only time she's ever said that she heard this voice was on January 24th of 2023. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
So when the district attorney asks you whether or not Lindsay, after all the symptoms that we've already gone through, told Rebecca Gelada that she heard a voice, told Dr. Tufts that she heard a voice, and denied that she heard a voice. Would you agree that there are reasons that a woman would not tell the doctor or minimize their symptoms out of fear?
Yes.
What kind of fear? Fear of what?
Well, in the records, it's stated that Ms. Clancy reported she was worried that her children would be taken away from her, perhaps by the Department of Children and Families, if she reported very severe symptoms. The other thing is, as a health care professional, boards of registration sometimes take a dim view of people who have been in treatment for certain psychiatric illnesses. And so she might have been concerned about her nursing license, but that's speculation.
So there are other reasons why a person may be concerned about telling healthcare providers, mandated reporters, that they're hearing voices, correct?
Yeah.
Would you agree with me that you don't have to see the proverbial unicorn in the corner to your health provider to be suffering from psychosis?
Yes, that's true.
And can you tell us, counsel was asking about the symptomology, psychosis, is that something that just grinds on for day after week after month, or is that something that comes on, I don't know, very quickly?
No, overall.
It can be quite episodic.
What does that mean?
It means that an episode can start and stop, and then an interval of time goes by. It could be days, weeks, or months, and then another episode occurs.
Counsel asked you about bipolar disorder, the suspicions of bipolar disorder from Dr. Gelada, and then talked about the prescriptions that were prescribed. Is it, in your opinion, appropriate to prescribe a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor to a person that is bipolar?
Overall.
It would be considered something to be done cautiously and usually with a mood stabilizer begun at the same time to prevent the possibility of making manic symptoms worse.
Thank you, sir.
Buckingham.
So just briefly, you didn't interview the defendant, did you?
I did not.
You don't know what she was concerned about. You're speculating.
Yes.
And for a person who's begging for help, wouldn't it be important to be honest with the providers about what you're feeling, seeing, and hearing?
It should be, but that's not always what doctors find.
Nothing.
Oh, she stepped in it there. Thank you, Doc. Let me sit down. Thank you. You know, we said this earlier, that licensed healthcare professionals would be afraid of losing their license. I didn't like the beginning of the cross-examination with the Commonwealth prosecutor. You know, if she was going to object to his qualifications as an expert, then she shouldn't have moved him in the beginning. She could have bardeered him about those questions about whether or not he had enough time working with postpartum depression patients. And then she could have objected to the judge, and the judge could have overruled her, or she could have won that that argument, but she didn't do that. So she waited for him on cross-examination to attack his credentials. That's like snake in the grass kind of stuff for me. Yeah, and
All right. So Lindsay, what we're going to do is we're going to break at this point till 2 o'clock. All right. And much of the next longer break will be trying to resolve the technology issue that we had. And so if it's resolved, we may call one witness. If it's not, call another witness. So we're going to try and get that all done during the break. So with my skills and technology, that's why we probably need a little bit longer than just the hour. So we will in recess till 2 o'clock. We'll come back in for next witness. Okay, thank you.
All right, please, your executive.
The thing about this witness that I didn't like was his monotone delivery, very dry, monotone delivery, very technical. He should have broke it down into more layman's terms. Like, listen, my experience with the central nervous system and hormones and so forth, very simple. You can break it down very easily. Hormones are your natural chemicals produced in your body, and they send signals in the nervous system. Okay, you have a signal to do something, and then you have a signal to stop doing something.
All right, so we'll come back at 2. We'll be in recess till 2 o'clock, and we have one of 2 different witnesses depending on how things work out over the break. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So again, most of my experience deals with weapons of mass destruction, specifically nerve agents. Okay. Nerve agents are called nerve agents because the chemicals that are being deployed attack your nervous system. And how does it do it? Well, most of these chemicals are what we call cholinesterase inhibitors. Now, that's a big word. I mean, so the easier way to say that is the chemical warfare agent sends a chemical into your body that attacks a hormone and blocks a hormone, rather, to dissolve the cholinesterase that would be used to stop a signal. So that's why you start convulsing, because all you're getting is the hormone that's saying go, 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 go. And the cholinesterase inhibitor, the nerve agent, is stopping the other hormone that would dissolve the initial hormone that said go, so that you could stop. You know, you have to simplify these things. There's no reason to get super technical in your testimony. I hope Ron is doing well. All righty. Okay, folks, so we're going to take that same break, and I'm not sure if Ron is going to come back after the lunch break here for Dr. LaPrasada's testimony. I hope we do. But I got to take care of a few things around here, and I'll catch up with you all later. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, I'm here. I'll go ahead and end the stream, and then we can come back. I'll set another one. So make sure you hit the notification, so when we go back, you'll know.
Okay, folks, great seeing you. Talk to you later.